Thank you. This is our monthly city council meeting. It's October 17th. 6:30 p.m. So with that, we'll do the roll call
Mayor Eichhorst,
here.
Councilor Bergner,
Here.
Councilor Phillips,
Here.
Councilor Richards,
Here.
Councilor Kraus.
Here.
Thank you.
We have agenda in front of us. I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
One of a couple things. So I'll make a motion that we move item,
Well, that's. I'll remove my motion then, so you can speak.
yes, I didn't. Okay, so I make a motion that we move item 8C to be under item 5 as letter B.
I second that.
I'm sorry.
So, discussion. About, is that right? City minutes, city meeting requirements. With number 8.
And you wanted
Eight C.
to.
I wanted to go under 5. Item Roman numeral 5.
Under petitions, requests.
Yep, so it'd be item C. Got another one. too.
I've only got A.
Okay, and I'd like to make another motion that,
Just a second, please. So under 5, I've got A. Is there B2?
There's no B.
Pardon? You want to make that a B item?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's what I asked, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, so it's actually moving item number C from 8. Right? And making it B under 5. And then I'd like to make another motion to actually add, I want to add Sunny's performance review under item 5 as well as C as a closed session for a maximum of 15 minutes.
I second that.
You do add a closed
Yes,
session
okay.
to
I apologize. I was talking to the EDA member. I didn't open my agenda. What, is that already an agenda item?
No.
So you gotta,
Did you add a closed session to? Where was it again? Under 5?
I want to add it under 5.
well, so we have to give
And it would be
notice.
D.
Did we give notice?
No, we don't, not according to Robert's Rules of Order or what there is for League of Minnesota Cities, we can do that, so. That's acceptable.
Do it if you want to do it. I can't vouch for it. Do,
I just wanted to make sure it was legit.
Would you have to post closed sessions in
you
advance?
don't have to host the closed session. You have to, there's a number of things you have to do. So when we get to it all, it's in, just give me a second here.
So if I understand it right. With performance reviews, typically the person that's receiving the review has had to review it and shared comments to it.
Yep.
That's correct.
Yep.
So
And have not yet responded.
You have not shared comments, but you've been given the opportunity to share comments.
So it says, 13D.05 subdivision 3, what meetings may be closed. Public body may close the meeting to evaluate the performance of an individual who is subject to its authority. Public body shall identify the individual to be evaluated prior to the closing of a meeting. Then it says, at its next open meeting, the public body shall summarize its conclusions regarding the evaluation. And then it says a meeting must be open at the request of the individual who is the subject of the meeting. So that's right. So you would have to do that. If Sunny wants it to be open meeting, you wouldn't be able to close it.
Right. And Sunny can have that option if she chooses to have it open.
Why are we moving this to Petitions, requests, and communications instead of new business.
Cause that's why I'm asking to move it.
No, you're not moving it, you're adding it.
Or adding it.
It's new.
Yeah, so you can add, just to be clear, this is a regular meeting, so if that wasn't on the agenda, you can add a item to a regular agenda meeting. If this was a special meeting, you wouldn't be able to do that, but it's a regular meeting, so you can add an item. That wasn't previous,
Open or closed.
right,
Right.
just add an agenda item,
It's
yeah,
not a special.
correct, it's not a special meeting.
We're gonna call for a vote.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion several motions. To move item under room number 8C, which is a discussion about city meeting requirements, to under item 5, petitions, requests with B, and also to add a closed meeting, performance review of city administrator for 15 minutes. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No. Okay, that's approved. 3-2. Okay,
So you withdrew yours and this was
yes, I went through
Jim
mine.
R and Jim B. Got it. Thank you.
So with that, we have our public forum. And it's city council welcomes, encourage participation from community members. Please keep in mind your comments will be pertinent city business and must adhere to data privacy rules. No employees' names may be used. Please do not expect action from the council this evening regarding your concerns. To address the city council during public forum, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address, and fill out the form provided. The speakers will be recognized only once. You will be timed, beginning with a green card is raised by our deputy clerk. The yellow card indicates you have 30 seconds left, and the red card indicates you've reached your 3-minute and must stop. So I have a form filled out from a Dominic Taylor.
Yes, sir.
At 110 East Center Street.
And we're here today to address the council if it hasn't already know of city drainage of city streets along Minnesota Avenue that over the course of years is filled in. During the springs, it fills in with the sand. I go out and try to dig it out. You know, through the construction that's been going on, it took about a 10-foot cement slab that goes down. The water goes and continue draining down to the river, drains down and off onto my property towards my shed. If the city isn't already aware that something should or can be done with the flow of the river, or excuse me, flow of the water from the culvert at the south side of East Center to the river access. There's issues with the drainage through there. The cities are already aware. That's it.
Okay. Is this something ongoing?
Yeah, during the spring, the sand will wash in there. This spring, there was a mound I ended up shoveling out to try to get the water to drain instead of cutting across and onto my property. So again, it's not a everyday thing, now depending on the water flow. Back when the heavy flow, it would come up over this cement slab that was put in over 30 years ago. One time I backed up and it gave way and I was stuck into the ditch. So they said, okay, we'll slab this out. And it had been working fine. Occasionally it would come up and over. The other part, during the winter, I'm using time, where the snow would melt, run down. And with that grate at the end wasn't open, it wouldn't flow down, it'd come past. If I didn't go out, clear the gate, clear up further the street on the curb and gutter part. Even now, if you look, it has a little bit of a type of, but
All right, we appreciate your comments and
Sure. And again, if, as soon as the city can address that, because if it waits till spring, it's gonna be an issue every time the water tries to get from where it comes from to where it should go.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you.
For those that like to speak public forum, please step forward. This will be our third and final call for public forum. Seeing none, we'll close public forum at 6:40. Next item is item 5 of petitions, request, communications. There is a letter from Irv in your packet. Complaint, it's concerned is the safety and security of residents. I believe city cameras on Minnesota Avenue and Lake Shady Avenue will help solve crimes being committed. Since criminals wear masks and hoodies, they get their vehicle ID. That's it. Fires and break-ins at the park. So it's a concern that Herb, as a resident, is concerned about. I know the cameras are a very expensive option, but they do provide another vehicle of identifying license plates. There's we also have some security cameras that we're looking at for our building facilities as well as the security of our treatment plant too. So I guess we'll just take this under not advisement, but just awareness, I guess. Unless anybody else has any comments?
So the ones that we're putting out of the sewer plant are those wired or non-wired? Wi-Fi, how are those gonna be looked at or?
I don't know if I have those details yet for what was talked about.
There is not security.
Right now,
camera
there
for
isn't.
the
It wasn't part of the project.
Project that was specified, no.
But we have been checking into costs to do that. This building, Public Works Building, Fire Department and out of.
I think, is that for Wi-Fi then? So it'd be easy for one place to go
I
or?
think they are Wi-Fi.
I'm
I
guessing
heard wired, I
technology
don't
said,
remember.
maybe battery, but this changes a lot, so technology has changed, so.
Mhm.
The other, we have, I know if they still do neighborhood watches. See something, say something, bring that to people's awareness and set meetings up, that could be another possibility too, we could look at.
I agree. That's a good idea.
Have we heard anything? Have they had any extra leads on
I've not heard
finding?
anything.
I haven't heard.
Okay, we're going to next item. B, that was moved up from page 3, item C, a discussion. Can we put a time limit on the discussion?
We did
We have a
15
lot
minutes
of
for,
reading to-
Yeah. Yep, we put a maximum of 15.
15 minutes, okay? Is that okay with the council?
for closed meeting for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Address it, Jim.
Yeah, so I make a motion that we call the closed meeting session.
So hold on one second, I just want to read.
We're not doing that yet.
Oh, I thought,
We're gonna do
I
the
thought
other
that's
stuff
what you
first.
just said.
I thought B was your discussion
Yeah.
of city meeting requirements. C was the closed section.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the packet about your C discussion, so.
On page 117.
Pardon?
For the first part of C is on page 117.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Okay. So.
I'm sorry, you were talking about the city meeting requirements.
Oh,
correct?
I'm
Not.
getting those mixed up in personnel policies. Yes, so.
There
let's
was
go.
nothing in the packet for city
Yeah,
meeting requirements.
yeah.
So we have to leave the personnel, community center action items where it's at, because it wasn't in the motion for the agenda.
And so we'll go ahead and do the. So what we had is adequate time for members to, meeting requirements.
Kind of funny, 'cause I moved it out of my packet here.
It's on 117. Third at the top.
Yeah. All right. These are actually the policies. So. Hang on here. Let me
Just,
just back it up.
the confusion might be is that where parks and trails is at item B. Page, bottom of page 2. All the other together to be paid.
Can move.
Personnel community center is L. And Gold Rush is.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I was mixing it up with my policies. Okay, so yeah, there's nothing really in the packet other than these listed items. And they're more for discussion. And the first item was to discuss the adequate time for members to review agendas and all meeting packets. Because we know we've not been given a lot of, in the past, adequate time to review our packets, and we know our packets continue to get bigger. And I know we've talked about this in the past. So I would ask that our packets, we get our packets. What is it, Sonny? We have a week to have our items to you.
Yes. 'Cause the goal is
Tuesday,
to get it out Thursday and sometimes it doesn't happen until Friday.
So I would ask that we have at least 5 days to review our packet.
You know, I think that, having them out on Friday, like you did this last week, has worked well.
Yeah.
That we had
That's
it, but, in the past, it has been Monday before we got it, or late on Sunday, that things were sent, that we didn't have enough time to be able to work on it Monday or Tuesday. So this at least gave us the weekend, so, you know, I like to have those printed like they were this last time to come in on Friday.
This gives
Yeah,
us
that's
adequate
just-
time to
yeah.
research if there's something.
Especially when you're looking at the in-depthness of what we've got to go through, and that it takes time to do that.
Well, and if I may just say that this particular item was an item that came in late to the last. And so it rolled to this meeting. So with the encouragement from counselors Richard and Richardson Phillips, that has been a thing, you know, the cutoff is the cutoff and
And I'll comment on that too. Cause Sonny and I had conversation on that, cause I had my dates mixed up. And that's why I told Sonny, pull it, because I'm all about keeping these timelines. You know, of getting things in for the agenda. So I didn't have a problem with that. So in the spirit of that, I would like to propose that we have 5 days.
We have it on Friday afternoon, so we've got it over the weekend.
Five calendar days or 5 business days?
I mean, 5 calendar days is okay. I
Yeah.
mean, 5 business days means we don't have time to put
Right.
stuff in as it gets to be close. I think that
That'd be
we should,
before our deadline.
But
you know,
if she turns it in, like, if everybody got it in on Thursday, so she gets them out on Friday, we got all weekend and.
Right, and that's what.
So that's
That's
actually-
only 4 days. actually.
yeah, 4th day, have it on the 5th so that we have 4 days to review it.
So I know that that's been an ongoing issue, and I think I like to think we're working towards a longer time frame. This was Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, which is 4 days. We set up meeting notices in 3 days. To have meetings and packet, so. 3 days, 4 days, I think 5 days. I know Tuesday noon is a cutoff for input. And we pre-give our ideas to Sunny by Water and Sewer. Planning and zoning, sometimes they have a challenge to get their stuff in Tuesday too, but it does take several days, a couple of days at least, just to pull all the information together or follow up. So it does take at least 2.5 days. So if we can continue to work towards a Friday evening, I'm sure Sunny doesn't like putting packets together on the weekends either. So I'd like to think that would be continue to be a goal of improving it, to work towards a Friday release of. It's online. You don't need the paper packets to review it initially. So I think that's adequate. We can work, if we can do better than 4 days, that'd be great too.
So it's Friday.
Friday is fine, absolutely, you know, so. Gives us a chance to go through it.
Okay, and item B is define start and end times, and I know we've talked about this a lot. And I would like this to move forward. It seems like we keep talking in circles around this one. You know, we have our start times, we have our end times. I mean, there's been times we're here at 10 o'clock at night. And I think we either narrow our agenda down a little bit. But I don't think there's any other thing that we can do. I mean, we're already starting at 6:30. In talking with other cities, you know, I talked to someone from Pine Island, their meetings are, they said it's rare if they go beyond an hour.
They go beyond what? I couldn't hear.
If they go beyond an hour and a half. Yeah. And my concern is, I mean, we're paying Mike to be here. We've got Joe here. We've got people in the audience waiting. Sometimes things aren't until the very end, and this gets to be pretty drawn out for the people involved there as well.
One question I got for you, Jim, I mentioned to you, and you're talking about hours. Have we ever looked to see what kind of, how many people are coming in that 7 to 8:30? Could we do it 2 times a week, or it's people? They come in a lot.
We're talking about meeting times right now, Carl,
Huh?
not, we're talking about meeting times right now, not business hours.
Yeah.
It's all-
This is meeting time
Okay.
for our meetings, for our council meetings.
So I think that's. We have a lot to discuss. We have our sewer project. And that takes up a lot of our time. That's gonna, once the sewer plant is operational. A lot of those construction updates that we get from Joe are very important for the council to keep up to date. And I think as you see is when we start after Joe's report tonight, I think you'll hear too that those detailed, very informative meetings, updates we need to have will subside somewhat, and I think that will help towards our meeting times being cut back. And I guess the other thing is just being prepared, read your packet. Trying to avoid long discussions about something that, you know, we need to get to the motion of what we're going to do anything. And we really need to work towards our time limits of discussing motions and making it happen. So
I would also suggest watching the videos of planning and zoning, water and sewer, anything you have questions about ahead of time.
And Mayor, can I just make a comment on it quick? I mean, I see a lot of meetings. I go to a lot of different meetings. And one thing I do note about these meetings is you have a lot of things on the agenda. They're not voting items. Like the council is not actually being asked to vote. There's a lot of discussion and then there's no, it's just,
There's no way.
there's no conclusion and then it's punted to another day. And more typically, there's some of that, but it's an inordinate amount of that. So like more typically it would be like action item only, and then the administrator should put like, if the council concurs, you know, whatever, a motion to approve the purchase of item A would be appropriate. And then when that item comes up, everybody's reviewed the packet, so they know about the item that's being purchased. They've already read it. If they had any questions, they had asked ahead of time, and then they just motion, vote, second, takes 2 minutes. I mean, that's typically what I see, not, you know, it's this piece of lawn equipment and we can get it here, we can get it there, and this brand and that brand, and it's a lot of just, I mean, I don't mean critical, but it's a lot of that. So.
And something is trying to get better is what we want to try to do. I really, really like.
I'm not saying it's not important, I didn't mean to put anybody down, I just, this is an observation I have. I mean, that's-
Fair observation. Sunny continues to offer, have questions, come and talk to her before the meeting. So I'm sure she's more than willing to do that, so.
And the thing I would suggest to Mike's point, because I had a note here, is I would suggest that we take the action items and move them first in the agenda. So if we get to the point of our published end time, you know, let's make sure that we have our action items completed at the beginning, and we can always cut off when it's our end time.
Right, I mean, one thing you might have to do, just an idea, is look at some other cities and how they organize the agenda. So what they do, a lot of them do, is they don't do it by like committees, like the sewer and water committee, this committee, that committee. They organize it by what the council's being asked of them that night. And so then that necessarily will move those, and it's usually like unfinished business, new business, and then discussion items only or something like that. And then a lot of it goes, I mean, I think Sunny's got a lot better since she's taken over, like there's a better consent agenda now. It used to be and this is before your guys' time, a long time ago, like there would not be any consent agenda. And it would just be, I mean, everything, so.
I will say that the order of the agenda is in your code book.
Mhm.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So,
It could require a code amendment to do it.
right.
Right.
But
That's true.
I appreciate those points, but and maybe perhaps, what might be helpful too is to highlight. Like on this agenda, there was that one revision where I added the action item on the seated contract. Highlight for you what the action items are so that we can.
Hit those and
keep
go.
them-
Moving.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, if you take the FYIs out.
and the, yeah,
it
and the
makes for
updates.
Updates, shorter agenda.
They can move to consent.
The motions are
Well, and
are governing.
a lot of what the other staff will do is they'll do a memo. So the info will be in a memo. And then it's in the packet and you can read it or not read it. You know, and then, you know, you can go ask questions of whoever wrote the memo. Like if it's Dan, the fire department, you had a question about a particular fire run, you could just go ask him, you know, that's what they're there for.
Right, and if he needs to come in for questions, you know, ahead of time, if the council says, hey, I think Dan should be here for this question, then he's prepared to answer that question.
Yeah, and you can always, the other thing about the consent is, this is the legal rules of it, is you can make a motion to pull something off of the consent agenda if you want to. So if it's in the consent agenda, and I've seen this happen many times where a particular member, like, let's say you put the purchase of the lawnmower in there and you want to discuss it, it's each individual member has their own right to pull that off the consent agenda and put it on the agenda. It doesn't even need to be voted on. So,
And we've done that with Fitzgerald and stuff, voicing in the past.
Length of meetings, that's kind of, we're kind of talking about that now. In the past, we've talked about, the length of the meetings, and I haven't heard too many people talking positively about having 2 council meetings a night or month. I'm not crazy about that. We have enough meetings, but, in the larger cities, they do have 2 meetings a month, but
But I
I'd
think,
stick with 1 meeting and be more efficient.
Maybe that's good.
yeah, and I think if, to Mike's suggestion, what Mike mentioned, I think that would slim our meeting down quite a bit, you know, let's move those action items up.
well, I don't mean to tell you that other cities don't have 4-hour meetings.
Oh, no,
They
But
do.
not all the time.
Not all the time.
that's
It's twice a
the
year.
exception.
Yeah, more the
Yeah.
exception than the rule, yeah.
Okay, very good. I think those covered those discussion items.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that,
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I may, okay, so what I'm taking away from this is. With regard to the first item, adequate time, getting the council packets to you on Fridays. And then we're gonna start at 6:30 and we're gonna move as quickly as we can through it, and that kind of ties to the length of the meeting as well. Is that? Okay, great.
so the next item is closed session. So with that, make a motion. Closed session at 7:02.
Mayor, can I read the,
Yeah, or do you want to read the statute?
do you mind if I read the script?
No,
So we
please do.
don't break the law. Just give me a second here. I just made this while we were. Shoot, that's not the one I made. Give me a sec. Here's the one I made.
Do you have copies of my review them that I can make for everyone?
Pardon?
Do you have copies of my review so I can make copies for
I
everyone?
have one.
So, Mayor, do you mind just authorizing me to draft, right? You're supposed to read it, but if you tell me.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm reading it
Mike.
as if I'm the mayor. This special meeting of the Orinoco City Council is called to order, excuse me. Yes, okay, the agenda item for this meeting is the evaluation of the performance of Sonny Bjorklund Schultz, City Administrator pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 13B.05 subdivision 3 paren A. This special meeting will be a close. Do you want to have the meeting? We should have asked that. Do you want to have the meeting open?
No, I'm fine having it open.
Okay, so then we don't need to read this. You can just proceed then.
Okay, thank you.
But I would like everyone to have
Yeah,
copies.
let's get.
Um, And I apologize, I would have sent each of you because I record all 5 of you. So it would be appropriate to have that.
So I make a motion, we go in the closed session.
She doesn't want to close session.
She has
I'm
the
sorry,
right
yes.
to open it. She
You're right.
wants it open. So I'll just, while she's waiting, I did look up the law and it basically the advice, I mean, Jim's comments are correct. You don't have to provide notice
That's fine.
unless it's in your personnel policy. So I went and looked at your personnel policy and it does not require, you know, a particular notice
Okay,
for a performance evaluation, but it has other requirements, so you should be mindful of that.
my question was just because we always had closed sessions in advance versus at the meeting, I wasn't sure.
Well, and I like that we weren't given information to review. And you brought that up last time, you know, you don't like being given information ahead.
Yeah, but this is.
This is a personnel situation, which is different. We don't publish personnel matters. It goes to personnel committee.
But council should have been given.
This is a personnel committee.
Not in advance. We haven't done it in the past.
But we haven't done a review that has been, we've always, in the past, we've been able to review our,
You know,
Or-
Kane, I think, was,
Kane
had a review that there was, and he wasn't allowed to even be here during that review.
but you didn't bring it to council. What I'm saying is like you brought it to us and you didn't give us anything ahead of time to prepare. So I think
Yeah,
it just in
but
the
we don't,
future,
because it's personnel.
I don't know
That's
that.
what.
We're all on council though.
Joe, I like that black top. Me too. They picked up the speed by.
We'll take that into consideration.
We got.
Oh, that's not bad. Stand please.
Okay, so you asked for 15 minutes, so it's,
I'd like to read this first before we start discussing.
okay. Take a few minutes to read it.
Are we ready to move forward?
What then?
Ready?
Yeah,
Okay. So Sonny, I'll give you the option of. Would you like me to get into the details that are listed or do the categories and the ranking?
This is your review, so,
Oh, it's your review.
no, it's your review of me.
Okay.
But it's,
I gave you the option. Okay, so we're running short on time here. So I'll go through the different categories and the rankings for each of the categories. There's details in here. I don't know if Sonny, if you're comfortable with us getting into those details, I can read them verbatim. But for the sake of time.
One quick question, if you have more details as what's here, why isn't it here?
No, I'm talking these details.
We don't need to read them, we have them.
That's what I've asked Dana.
We thought you meant more details.
No,
So I guess then I have a question. How your rubric over here works. Can you explain this? Like, is there a number that you rate 1 from 0 or, 1 to 10, and then that's how you end up with superior to unsatisfactory? Because I'm finding like only positive comments, but still marginal. So I'm just wondering, can you explain your rubric?
there's no rubric. It's
So this is-
based on input and performance.
I will say this is not the form that I would have used. Mine did have numeric values
Right.
attached to them. This is Jim's form, so
So this just seems very subjective and not something that is helpful to understand.
How could you not understand it?
Because under quality of work, you wrote only positive things and it's still marked marginal. To me, that is confusing.
It's the balance.
Balance of what?
It's the balance of everything that goes into that. So I'm not gonna explain all,
So,
deep down into every specific item. But if you would like, we could get into a lot of the detail on this, but we said 15 minutes and we don't have a lot of time to do that. But I'm more than happy to go through and read these detail.
well, I have the detail, I'm reading it.
Okay, so let's.
So you only wrote, again, I'll just say this, you only wrote positive things under that, but it still is marked marginal. So help me
Okay,
understand
so
that.
you could look at that as that, those are just a couple of the things that Sunny does, that she's responsible for, and those are things that shine. So let's move forward.
I make a motion that Sunny's
Hang
removed.
on.
Huh?
Let me
Oh,
go
I
through the.
thought you wanted to read it.
No, so organization. So the organization of work was ranked as unsatisfactory based on comments. The attitude was marginal. Work habits, unsatisfactory. Quality of work was marginal. To Dana's point, there were good things in there, and those are the things that were raised to the top. The productivity was unsatisfactory. And the overall job performance was unsatisfactory for her position.
I make a motion that Sunny's removed.
Leave it.
I don't either. I agree
It's
with,
based on innuendos.
I make a motion,
There's,
It's
I'm talking. Thank you.
not based on innuendos.
Well, there is a lot of, if I read through these things and when you talk about, toxic and unsafe work environment based on multiple instances reported by staff. Is that a one-way conversation or was that a two-way conversation or what are you talking about there?
Some of these were definitely two-way conversations.
is there a filed piece of paperwork that is? Do you
We
have,
talked about it in personnel committee meetings.
so I'm struggling a little bit because we don't have any access to your discussions at personnel meetings. There's no recordings. There's no documentation, there's no minutes.
We don't record personnel meetings.
So do you see how the rest of us might be struggling? Because it could be that maybe a couple of you are vindictive and don't like a person. And then you could make this stuff up, which seems to be what's happening here.
Okay.
And if
Entitled to it.
and then if there were actually unsafe events and toxic, I would assume that a report would have been filed and we would have access to that.
Sonny was talked to by the personnel committee. And to your words, you know, let the committees do what they were put in the committees to do. So we've had a number of personnel committee meetings and talked about a number of these things. Some of these things have even come up in council meetings, you know, about coming to work, you know, things getting done. I mean, we've all witnessed it. Have we not?
There's definitely been times where things weren't done on time, that
Okay,
there's also been times when, you know, you didn't read your packet before you got here,
how do you know?
or
How do you know?
because last meeting you told us you didn't,
No, I didn't.
Rosita, yes, you
No,
did.
don't
You said
lie,
You didn't
Dana.
have time.
Don't
It's
lie.
all on
Hey.
video. Nobody's
Hey,
lying.
I can respond.
Nobody's lying.
respond.
You said you
Yeah.
didn't read
Yeah,
the packet
she's
because you
lying.
didn't have time, and we got into discussion. I'm like, oh, well, I took time on Sunday. I'm sorry you didn't. Anyhow,
Opinions you're entitled to.
and so what I think is, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and we can't do anything about it. So. But I think it's a really unfortunate situation that we're facing right now. We've been really moving in a good direction. And this is gonna change that. In the middle of a project for which the state is funding 80% of. There's a lot of things that need to be done. I think you need to really think hard about what you're doing.
So a review is changing projects.
No, what Carl's about to do is going to do that.
If
I'm
I'm,
looking at the review. You're making a comment about the
I'm-
review.
I mean, I'm only making it on what I read here and what I've heard on the street, talk to the people, talk to the employees. You know, there's a lot of stuff goes on. I'm making on my own decision.
So I would advise you not to make any motions until you complete the evaluation portion.
Right, right.
So you're trying to make motions, I wouldn't do that. What I would do is have the mayor set a process for hearing evaluations of the administrator. So you've already called that agenda item. I think what you should, because ultimately the personnel committee, I was just reading your personnel policy. So they're supposed to do, personnel committee is supposed to do an evaluation annually. And then the council, and then ultimately, and then the city council should, and there's a list of things the council should do. So if this is you've called this as an agenda item to review the performance, there's no specific meeting procedure here. But I think the mayor, you should just do a practice where you allow each member to speak independently, go one by one, and then end the agenda item. Okay.
Let's
Do
go
we
ahead.
give Sunny a chance to respond
Yes.
since this is her
Yes.
evaluation?
In fact,
And I
in
want.
fact, it says that.
Clear.
Yeah.
Sonny has been given ample time to give
3 different
feedback.
opportunities to respond.
We had 2
Yeah.
meetings. In fact, the last one was canceled because she didn't have anything. And there, I have an email even giving dates, and that was a month after this, asking for feedback. Cause that's what this is all about. And Mike, this was based on your request that we do the performance appraisal. Yeah, and this is the performance appraisal. We've met numerous times. I've asked for feedback in those meetings and in writing and put a date on it, and I got nothing back. So I don't know how long we're to wait for feedback, but I'm done waiting.
We just this evaluation, you know, on 7/27, okay, and we did give ample time to respond. And there was 1 meeting, 2 meetings that we had, but there was nothing in writing that was given back. And the 3rd one, she said, if you're not gonna change anything, then I've got nothing to respond to, and that one was canceled. It's all, and we've documented everything that there is.
finish what I said. Can you find that email? Jim, on your computer, can you find that email?
What's that?
The email where I said, have you changed anything?
Sure, you got that.
And then you have that email because the other part of it was I will provide written.
But you chose not to, Sonny. We gave you how many months to do that?
Well, how much advance notice did you give me that you were doing this?
You're-
This is, we got a lot of time.
It's just a question. Don't,
You know, when you look at this, we did this evaluation. Actually, we had a couple meetings before this. We started out in May when we were getting together. We had it out at the picnic table. When we had our first meeting that we said that there were some
that was
issues.
part of my performance review.
That was, we were just trying to bring things up that were issues, so we didn't have to go to this degree. We wanted to give you an opportunity to work on these things so that we could address them. So we didn't have to get to the point where we're at tonight. And so that's why I'm saying, we worked and tried to work with you off of these things and basically you just kind of turned around and that's it. So
I think
that
that's a
attitude is-
mischaracterization, Jim. However, Phillips, because that was not at all what I understood the picnic meeting.
you know, you didn't take one
That was
note
about-
at all of what there was during that time.
Well, how did I know what your agenda was?
But if
So
we
let's,
had-
do what Mike was suggesting and, we'll allow Sonny to respond to looking at the email and then we'll go one by one with comments and after everybody has, just like we've had in other closed meetings, it's not a, once you've said a statement, there's no additional discussion in between parties. And then we'll go back to, an open meeting then.
It is an open meeting. She asked that it not be closed. So, and there's every, so I would just say, I mean, I can't give really any legal advice. To do it, I'd have to review a number of things, including Sonny's employment contract, which I have not reviewed. The personnel policy, I've just reviewed this one section about the personnel evaluations. And so I think at the conclusion of the council's discussion, or at some point, I guess it's up to you, you're the mayor, but you should give her a chance to address that, and I think that's a right. I think there's a little confusion here. I think the evaluations are done by the personnel committee, but then the city council must review them, and the city council should do these things. So it's actually the council doing the review, the formal review, and so I think you should give her a right to speak then after the council has a discussion.
Okay.
Or you could do it now, or whatever
We'll
you
do the
think.
council members
Yeah.
first. Dana, do you have anything else you'd like to?
I would just like to say that I do think that you're correct, that there's a toxic environment, but I think it's you. I think that Sunny has done a great job. Has there been growing pains? Absolutely. We are in the midst of a few lawsuits. We are in the midst of a multi-million-dollar project. We have some new committees starting like an EDA. We have a lot going on in this community. It's exciting and it's a lot of hard work. She does work hours outside of the regular hours. I feel like as a salaried employee, that's a good thing. You want somebody to keep working till the job is done. You don't want them to clock out at 5 p.m. because somebody thinks they should. This is a shame. And I think we are, to be council members, and to have this type of clear, misuse of power is really disturbing as not only a citizen, but as a fellow council member. And I feel like this could be handled in a very different, in a much more professional way. And I think that if Sunny had a chance, she would continue to improve and help our city improve also.
Okay. I believe Sunny has been given a lot of challenges over this last year. And I've been thinking about the different things that she's been doing that is beyond a normal city council, maybe what we had 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years before pandemic, before the COVID, so I think there's a lot of added work that this multi-million-dollar project has been given to our 2 people staff. And we have had one, and we've had limited staff, let me put it that way. So I just made a list here, what I think are things different than what a normal council meeting or normal year is like, I guess, for city staff. Building permits, they're up to over 103 to date compared to 50 last year, some lower number. PFA loans, we have PFA loans for the sewer, the water, Orinoco Estates. And continually working with the PFA, with Anita, that's something that we haven't had to do in the past. And Joe and I will attest that that takes a lot of time and hours to work with PFA. They had to deal with 500 letters sent out this spring for assessments to our users that are getting the assessments are going to be on the property rolls. And so that was a process they had to send out that affected 220 residents, 83 with grinder stations, asking questions, phone calls. These are all distractions for the normal day of work. People stopping in, council members stopping in. During work, after work, that takes time. Those are all distractions. Even though she's on her own dime, we still have inner distractions. We're working with an outdated accounting software system. It's very outdated. We've missed 2 or 3 updates over the years because nobody knew to update them. So you're going to hear more about getting a better update. Just busy work request. Everything goes on, people wanting this, people wanting that. State records. We have indications that there's some that haven't been done properly the last 2 or 3 years. That takes time to go back and look at details. P&Z, heavy activity with the RFP that she put together for the coding book, working with planning and zoning, and that's a passion of hers, but that's taken a lot of direction, a lot of work. We're involved with some developments right now with 2 around gas and coal. That takes a lot of time. Updating personnel policy for administrator. Currently, our current policy that's in effect is for a city clerk. Lawsuits, we've had 3 in 2 years. That requires a tremendous amount of discovery, time limits. And where those lawsuits are all funded by taxpayers and our insurance. Talking about the coding book. The last item, the office is never not open. There's always somebody here to answer calls. Maybe she's not here at 7 o'clock in the morning, but the office is covered. So that's important, and that's a credit to working with Renee and when Mary was here too as well, part-time. So to me, I think she's doing a great job for the challenge she has. Yes, there are things that need to be improved, and we all recognize that, but I'd like to think we'd like to see the improvements in those areas. So my overall job performance would be much higher than unsatisfactory. Jim, do you have any other comments?
Yeah. So a couple of things I'll just address that I heard, working outside of business hours. I would say a lot of that is because Sunny's not here during regular city hours a lot. She's here for part of the day during regular city hours. We know there's, when it's planning and zoning and council, that's different. And we've talked about these, being here during the day when our residents need our city administrator, need people in City Hall to be available. And as far as a chance to improve, we've been talking about this with Sunny for months. And have seen very, very little improvement. That's why you're seeing personnel policies coming up on the city council agendas, is to have regular business hours for our city. I've heard from countless residents about the operations of City Hall, and we are really losing the confidence of our residents. I've gotten complaints about, crass attitude on the phone and in the office and from our own staff. And we've talked about that. We've talked about the tone of emails and things of that nature, and have given a lot of grace. And Rylan, you talk about beyond normal and what was done years ago. I mean, we didn't hire a city clerk, we hired a city administrator. And that's why we bumped that up to, what is it, 95,000 a year versus what we were paying a city clerk. And some of this scoring is not wanting to let go and delegate. I mean, we lost an employee because of the way she was treated, and because of pay, and because of training. And hearing from the public works employee that left, that wasn't good, what we heard. And those things we can't just let go. We've addressed things. There's been behavior that I know in any other place you'd be fired for. And Sunny has agreed that it has happened and has apologized. So it's not like we're going into this review blind. I mean, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. It's being organized, being on time, showing up. I don't know what more we can say about that. I mean, there's been meetings that were set up that Sunny was involved in, and Sunny was a no-show. And does that really convey the message that our city wants to convey? That that's the way we operate? This is for the good of our city. I mean, this is not ours. This is the city's, it's the taxpayers. And like I said, we've addressed these things countless times in personnel committee meetings. So it's not just Jim Phillips and I out headhunting. These things have been addressed. And at some point, we've got to do something. And yes, the work environment is an unsafe work environment. When I'm told by a past employee before they left that they want to file a lawsuit against the city because of the way they're being unfairly treated.
So I wouldn't discuss any past employees.
No, but I'm just saying, this is something that comes up. And
Yeah,
we gotta address this stuff.
private personnel data should not come up during the meeting.
Right.
But I would refrain from that.
Okay. There's so many things, that have been late. I mean, the city's credit cards have been canceled because payments haven't been made. Invoices have been late. And I know things can get late, but at what point you draw the line and say, hey, we can't do this anymore. This is for the good of our city. We're not here for Sunny. Sunny is here for the city, not for the council. They're here for the city, for our taxpayers. And personally, I have given a lot of grace. Sonny and I have had talks. We've had talks in personnel committee meetings. We've had talks with other employees in the meetings and discussed some of these things. Raises, the employees didn't get their raises on time. You know, and that's a message to our employees that we don't care about you. You're not, you know, you're not valuable enough to get your raises on time. You know, so it's not like we haven't tried to move forward. So I'm done. Jim?
The only, and Jim answered and responded to a lot of the things. We've got written letters from the residents of the city that have been disturbed about what's going on here. With the RFP that was done, just, you know, for P and Z, that was done by the P and Z committee, not done by Sonny. Just so you know, I just want to make that out there because of the work that was done. I think that there were also delays on the RFP for the water and sewer project that didn't allow us to have enough time to be able to go back again, that we are, you know, kind of restricted to only one person that there is on doing it. And, you know, if we would have had that out 6 months ago, it would have given us a lot of different opportunities to do things. I know that we had a delay on getting the increase on the water rates out too, that were not until a few months after that were going on. And it's again, Jim and I have spent many hours, many meetings, lots of follow-up work that there is to try to do this and do it right. We believe in grace as being the first thing that we do, but it takes the other person to take a look at what there is to be able to move ahead. And there's got to be a point in time where you say, okay, we've got to make a change. So.
My biggest thing is, I've heard from the residents of the town, is coming to City Hall. They can't get an answer because Sonny's not here, or Sonny's gonna get back to them and Sonny don't get back to them. And, you know, this credit card not getting paid on time, a big no. And, you know, there's stuff I come in and ask you, it slipped my mind, well, being the city administrator, you gotta make notes or something. Otherwise, I'm kind of going by what you guys just read off, you know. About it.
Thanks.
Okay, so if I may go back to this email about, on August 28th, you wanted to do a follow-up and complete my annual review this Thursday at 3:45 p.m. I will be available for a 60-minute meeting. Sonny and Jim, please let me know if this time does not work for either of you. I hope you have a great day. I think there might have been something in there between that, but then on Wednesday, so the 28th was Monday, Wednesday, August 30th. At 2:01 p.m. I responded to Jim and the two Jims and with a CC to the city attorney. Jim, unless you and Jim have made any alterations to the document you shared with me, I can prepare my responses in written form and get them to you later. My highest priority right now is trying to find financial data from 2001 and beyond to help Mike Flaherty develop an answer to the Fitzpatrick lawsuit within the time allowed. This is no easy task because, one, this issue goes way back in time, right? Two, Tyler Tech software wasn't utilized until 2009, and I have no clue on what was used previously. And we all know coding has been inconsistent. Three, all the players but Fitzpatrick are new. And number four, the clock is ticking on an answer. That's just my highest priority. I have several other number ones on the list too, not the least of which is the 2024 budget work. Thanks for understanding, Sunny. So,
What was the date of that one? So,
August 30th.
so that was over 30 days after your review.
And we had two other reviews that we had meetings before that particular last one. Okay, we had two other meetings that we reviewed. One was downstairs in the basement. Remember when we couldn't get into another room?
What was
that
the
we had?
date on that one?
The one that we had one on, I'll go through the ones that we had. We started at 6:20 or 4:26. We had another one on 5:2.
Slow down. 4:26.
4:26, okay, we had one on 6:8. We had one on 6:13. We had one on 8:9. And then we had another one on 8:31. So those were the meetings that we had, that we were working on this.
Okay, so the review is dated July 27th.
Right.
So you're telling me all of these things we talked about, those were review related? I'm just trying to
We
understand.
talked about all these things leading up to it. One of them was taking a look at the office, taking a look at, maybe what people see when they come in and look through the window at your office, all kinds. We looked at timeliness. We looked at when we wanted to have regular office hours. All these things were discussed before we turned around and did a formal write-up, because we wanted to turn around and address these without having anything in writing. And that's when we talked about grace on trying to get things changed and to move ahead. The only thing is things didn't happen, and that's why we had to turn around and do the write-up the way we did the write-up. And like I said, everything that there is, we've got documentation for all of this stuff. And it gets to be the end, and this is where we're at today of what's going on. We tried many, many times to work to try to say, can we make things better? It didn't get better.
In your view. As
And I think
Counselor Richard said to Dana, you have an opinion, you're welcome to that.
Right.
You have opinions, you're welcome to those. And as I've told you before, and I'll be happy to see the letters that you have from people, because you said you have documentation, or the mayor could. But I'm gonna speak to the very top sentence of this note on the employee performance review record. Note, the ratings in this performance review are based on expectations discussed at the time of hire and that of a person in the role of city administrator. This role is considered one of the highest positions in the operations of the city. So one, with due respect, the city has never had a city administrator. And none of you have ever worked with a city administrator before. So as I've said before, I know my job better than anybody here. So I know you don't like hearing that, but the fact that I operate differently than what you had in the past, that's the way it's gonna be. And there are I will say that I dare say that the people that you have talked with are not the people that I have talked with. And I've mentioned before, I will stay with the people that I have talked to that have been appreciative, that have seen the direction that the city is going, that I have appreciated this opportunity. And if you want to take it away from me, then that is a decision on your part. But I will agree with, I'll give that back to you. I will agree with the comment earlier that there are several items of innuendo. And then, you know, you just spoke earlier about hearing from countless people. Well, I'm a numbers person. Countless, I don't even know what that means. Multiple, I don't know what that means. One disenchanted former employee. It happens. It happens. And if you've talked with another, that's news to me. So I can't fix what I don't know. And we have talked about specific issues, but again, if you don't understand the work that goes on in City Hall, it's pretty easy to have a myopic view. And I'm sorry for that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Sonny. Council members. Okay, well,
I make a motion to have Sunny removed immediately from her job.
second. Motion to, how did you say it, Carl?
Ever removed or resigned or terminated from her
You're not
job?
resigning, but are you firing her?
Huh?
Are you firing her?
Well, we're giving her the option. Or whatever. Okay, well, fire that. I won't give her.
I'm trying to get clarification on her.
I would personally like to give Sunny the option based on the motion to resign. Because to have the termination on a person's record, you know, I would like her to have that option.
Is he offering as an amendment to the motion?
Yes. And that's her
Is there a
choice.
second for that amendment? Second. You'll accept the amendment?
Yes.
So the motion, as I understand it, is to give Sandy the option to resign or be released. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any discussion? It's a very unfortunate situation. Don't think. It's a, I'm sure if the three of you understand what this really means to the city and the challenges that you have in front of you, the city, the taxpayers, that you're making the motion for is, will be impacted by your decisions. Actions have consequences, and it's gonna be a challenging time. I think you're putting our sewer project in jeopardy. You're putting our wastewater operator contract in jeopardy. And you're putting the city in jeopardy of not being able to continue to function. Mainly because of $46 million we have here in front of us. And Sonny has been an instrumental part of that. And I think you as council members with that motion and amendments and seconds have put the city at a very big disadvantage. I just feel like it's a very inopportune time. I would expect staff to leave. Wouldn't be my expectation. It wouldn't surprise me if staff leaves because of the motion. I think it's you know, we talk about grace, and I think we've all given grace. And but I think there's a lot of things that extenuating circumstances that we've gone through and currently involved with are really going to make this a challenge for our city. And for the majority of the city, I think it's going to be a great disservice of what you're proposing with that motion. You may still feel strong about it, but I think you're feeling strong about it for the wrong reasons. And if that's your strong vote to vote for that motion, that's fine, but I just realized I think you're making some direct consequences for the city and how we are viewed by the community, not only locally, but from how do we handle PFA? How do we handle all of our obligations to state by doing this? If you're willing to take that risk, that's fine. But recognize that's what you're putting this city in and the taxpayers in. Now and going forward, whatever comes out of this. Any other comments?
Mayor, I just wanna state. So I tried to review some of the stuff as this was going on in anticipation of the motion. And I just can't, so I don't know if Sonny has an employment contract with the city or not.
Sorry.
If she has an employment contract with the city or not, I don't know that, or if anybody's reviewed the terms of that. But I would just say, without reviewing the employee, your current personnel policy, that contract, if there is one, and the code, I can't give any legal advice on it. I would have to review those documents to provide any legal advice. So that's all I can say.
I can tell you that I do not have an existing contract because the terms of my interim status expired within 2 weeks of when you appointed me unanimously as city administrator. So I have no current contract. I worked on good faith, as is my preference.
So if it's,
I hope it doesn't work. I apologize. Tense moment, but it's gonna shut down. I gotta switch my audio.
unfortunate this is working out this way, Jim. You made the motion to hire in September of last year. And,
You actually made the hire to bring me in.
you're the personnel
I
committee too.
absolutely did.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate. I mean, it's not only unfortunate for Sonny, it's unfortunate for the city. that it had to come to this. We've tried to make it better. I think there's what's being said here is as if there was a witch hunt, and there's no kind of a witch hunt. It's for the city. It's based on performance. I think I would put money on it if any other employee acted in the manner and showed up and didn't show up, and in terms of some of the things that I mentioned earlier, I think they'd be terminated. We've given a lot of grace. We've talked a lot, so I'm not gonna rehash those, but it's an unfortunate time all the way around.
But you do realize there is a difference between this position and other employees. Do you not? Just curious.
You're all
Okay.
employees. That's the way I look at it. son. You're all employees, and we all have a code of conduct. We all have standard, let's call it standard, understanding of operation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity it afforded me.
Thank you.
Mid-June, I'm gonna say Lori was a big part of that because she was more involved than you were, Jim, but you were part of it, so thank you.
Absolutely.
And then also, thank you in March for the unanimous vote of confidence. I have appreciated being here and working with staff and
Any
residents.
any other comments? I just think it's very short-sighted on the motion, and I think it's gonna have a bigger impact on whoever comes in, or how do we get through this interim period? But that's all part of the motion, is that how do we move forward if the motion is approved? And Sonny's not here tomorrow. Who's taking over? No doubt Renee is our deputy clerk, and she will do the best she can, but she's gonna be limited even more in her time and workload based on what we've talked about. All that in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? No? Motion is approved. Take a 5-minute break.
Goodbye. Find out anything or run anything, Jim? You gotta kind of run any computers or anything. Somebody's on leave, we've got to ask him. We go out there and ask her. We're on recess, so I have no idea. Just gonna, my brother got killed the next day. I had to keep going. Bad time, but
Yeah, I'm gonna,
It's a court judge.
It's interesting.
get that, Carl.
This may turn.
didn't catch it. I'm sure it wasn't a friendly comment.
Yeah, right. After the food shelf. Oh, let me grab my. Want you guys to know I missed my daughter's very last volleyball game
Why?
for this to be here tonight. So, you know what?
And we're missing a lot of things too.
Are you?
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
don't think
they-
you are. I
yeah.
think you're all children that are playing a game that you don't understand.
Your life is the only one that matters. Thank you.
Hey, you got a good story, right? He's gonna go ask Dan if she resigned. He gets up out of me easier than I do. I'm German, I don't get up that easy. We're on a journey, I make it laugh.
Just trying to,
You know,
it's
you know-
never,
You know what I just said? You know, my brother got killed on the highway with a business downtown. His business was open the next day. We couldn't shut it down. I mean, the bills paying, you gotta go on. Unfortunately, it's a bad thing.
it's not the best time.
I will guarantee you. I've had more people call me and complain. And tell me, I never had one person tell me she was doing a good job. I had a lot of complaints.
Okay, we'll continue. Next item is our water and sewer. Joe, update please.
There is an update in your packet, of course, as well as in the sewer and water committee, meeting minutes, but, really briefly, lots going on the two projects on the wastewater treatment facility. A lot of the site work's been completed. They will complete the bituminous, wear course tomorrow. And things are really shaping up. We had a really positive development yesterday, in fact, the last MCC, Machine Control Center for the wastewater treatment facility was delivered. Which is a little bit ahead of when we expected it. Which is great. So that means the last real big outstanding item are the lift station control panels, which we do expect to come in the last half of October here. So any day now, the first delivery should come, based on the schedule that the supplier has given us. So with that said, that improves the likelihood that we will be commissioning the wastewater treatment facility starting in November and early December, and we have the opportunity to do a startup in December if we wish. I think that we still have the opportunity to, or I still think, not opportunity, we still have to get a little bit more information. Obviously, with those panels have to come in, we have to discuss kind of the logistics of the startup with the contractor. But it does look favorable at this point based on what has developed over the last few days. We'll learn more over the coming weeks. And we'll have to ultimately make a decision whether it is really in the best interest after we do the commissioning to start up in December, or if we want to delay that until March. There's really some pros and cons there. From the perspective of, starting up that facility. We've got operation costs, but we also have operation income. The complexities of starting up that late in the year. A number of things that we have to kind of work through and talk about. And I would say that in the coming month, we really are going to need to make that final decision as to whether we're truly going to start up in December like we've been kind of talking about, or if we're going to push that back. But it looks like we will have that opportunity based on the recent developments. And of course, a few other dominoes have to fall, but they seem to be falling.
Just a quick question on the commissioning. Once we commission it, is there an issue? Are we gonna have water? We're gonna have and how do we deal with that if we go from there? And then we push it out till spring, depending upon what you guys want.
Right, it's a clean water commissioning, and so there's water in the facility, at least to some extent right now. So we would be circulating that water to prevent freeze up and protect certain components of the equipment. So there is that, additional requirement through the winter to essentially circulate that water, pump that water. There's different ways to do that. Certainly something that can be done. That is one of the caveats, one of the things that we need to consider as to, when we make that final decision as to whether we truly want to start up in December, or again, delay that a little bit until, say March. But again, things are coming together.
What about warranty with that on, will it make a difference if we commission it and we start it? Is the warranty period start at that point, or does it start in spring?
That's something that we would have to research a little bit more, but I think that, in my opinion, whenever substantial completion is reached and we can start up, the warranties probably start.
Okay. Good news.
Yes. So, are there any questions? I know it's late, but I don't. If you have questions or items you want to talk about on the treatment facility, we can certainly do that. And again, as I was inviting anybody to come out and take a look, MPCA is coming out for an inspection, not this Friday, but next Friday.
You have a time on that?
I don't off the top of my head. I think it's 9 o'clock, but I can get back to you on that, Jim.
Okay. Pictures look great, by the way.
Yeah.
Really look fantastic.
So things are coming together from that perspective. On the collection conveyance system, we did just issue an update, number 32 on Friday. That included a lot of great information. As included in the update, one of the most important things that I'm sure you all noticed is the paving started. So there's been paving the last couple days, and that will continue through tomorrow.
Back tomorrow.
They're gonna pave at the wastewater treatment plant and then continue in town. And I would suspect by the end of the day, they'll have the majority of what needs to be paved. I think there'll be some miscellaneous driveways and things like that, but I expect the streets to be done.
Wow, very good. That's awesome. That's very good.
So that's again, another positive development. We're still waiting on the lift station panel controls. and there's obviously like grading at the lift station. We've got that little bit of sanitary sewer by Timberline Drive in the green areas. But all the sewer in the paved areas is complete. Over the next few weeks, there'll be a little directional drilling of services that'll happen. And the contractor continues to work on installing the low pressure force mains to the grinder stations on the private properties in the areas where where there's rock that they can't be directional drill. So a lot of activity continuing. But I think the contractor is making some real positive.
Do we have the transformers in at the lift stations? So
They are.
we're just waiting for the panels, and is all we're waiting for.
Okay,
And the pumps need to be installed, but they're in storage as well.
Okay.
And then, there's site work, bollards need to be installed, paving, planting, seeding, those types of things. But over the next month. it should get done.
For good weather.
Yes, more days like today.
action item, I'm sorry. Anything
I was
else?
just gonna say, any questions or other items people want to talk about?
Next item is our operations and maintenance agreement.
So we have had some back and forth with people service on that. The most really the final version of the agreement is in the document or is in the packet. A few things have changed. One specifically, PFA as a function of our funding had us requested that the city's bond attorney review the document and add any specific language into the document necessary to satisfy the requirements of the bond. And on page 3, item 1.5 was added.
You'll add that, or 3.5 or 3.2.
On page 3, item 1.5. Basically, yeah,
Yeah, we like that.
Got it.
yeah.
talks about, they can't claim any depreciation of the facility, those types of things that nothing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be, yeah.
Really, I thought, but, they wanted that statement added in there. And then the last thing that was added, under the miscellaneous component of the contract, we did amend the language associated with people's interaction with public works staff and how they work together on that.
I was looking for that. Can you point that out on what that kind of one was?
Yeah, I can.
I saw 6.
So the last item under miscellaneous on page 19, item F. There was some back and forth on that. Between People's Co-op, myself and Sunny. And item F is what People's Service is willing to incorporate.
They see that work with Orland Public Works staff to observe operation activities. To the extent necessary, develop a working knowledge of routine wastewater system operation and maintenance activities. It says, at no time shall city staff assume direct responsibility for any wastewater system operation or maintenance activities. So does that give Kane enough for him to be able to come in and to work towards his license or not?
Potentially. It's a little gray in my opinion.
Can we, firm that up at all, do you think, so that we've got that ability that's in there? I know you've been working on that.
I really do think that this is where people's landed and we went back and forth a number of times and this is what they're comfortable with. And I think they're concerned about taking any responsibility for city staff actions or giving responsibility to the city when ultimately it's their license and they're responsible for running the facility. We did did go back and forth with a little bit different language and ultimately they redlined what I drafted and we kind of went back and forth, but this is what they're willing to live with.
They don't want to give up the pie.
Well, I just think that, I think they've been pretty consistent in terms of guarding their position, doing what they do, and I think we could probably all appreciate the concern about essentially training a replacement, right? Because I think that,
Yeah.
regardless of the city's intent, that's what they might look at it or see it as.
And I see that we're limited, that we can't hire one of their employees either, so that's in there.
Right, but they can't hire one of the
Right.
cities either, so I added that clause as a, cause that.
Right.
No, I
could
guess
happen.
I'm fine with that.
And that's standard.
But yeah, I do think this is a pretty standard contract for them. It did. Our bond attorney did look at it and we added the clause that they wanted to be added. And this item specifically, we kind of went round and round on about 3 times, so.
I make a motion, we approve the operations and maintenance agreement with People Service Incorporated of Omaha, Nebraska.
Wait a second.
Any other comments? Is there a time period then, Joe, that they need to respond or?
Well, I think that executing the contract starts their recruitment process. They haven't started to recruit because they don't know if they've got a process.
Okay.
And I think that the way the contract's written, it'll commence at a mutually agreeable time. So if we start, the plant start up in December, it'll start in December. If we start it in March, it would start in March. For the commissioning activities, the city would pay Peoples, I think it's $70 an hour to be there. If you do the math and $70 times 40-hour week times four months is less than the monthly rate, so that is fair.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, and that will kind of ramp up and down depending on the day of the week. There might be a 10-hour day, the next one, there might be nothing scheduled, so. That's how that would work.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved. Okay, next item is the Glen Motor Coach site improvements. And we have a couple of gentlemen here that are from the organization or working with Glen Motor Coach. So there's been some back and forth discussions, I believe.
Yeah, there has, Mayor, if I might, or Mike, I don't know if you want to, Mike and I kind of worked on this.
Kind of happened, yeah, Joe, say, so. Going down here.
I do have just a real simple exhibit as a kind of a talking point or something that we can all talk off the same exhibit.
Thank you.
So there's a number of documents in the packet. Getting to the short meetings, if you didn't read them, it's probably too much to go through right now, but there's a memo from starting at page 36. Development agreement starting at page 39. And that's the development agreement from 2012 when this was developed, when this was platted. And then there is, scrolling down here, excuse me a sec. Then the plat follows that, that's on page 57, which I think Joe has printed out here. And then there it is.
a letter from Mr. Geeson, he's the lawyer here, the gentleman to the left. That represents, I think, the builder or the owner. And that's dated October 2nd, that's at page 62, that's their position on that. And then I asked Sunny to print off certain sections of the city code, just a summary of those, that's on page 64. So that's, you know, there's a lot in there, and then, oh, excuse me, and then there's, starting at page 65, there's the cost security agreement. With the TLS Companies LLC. And I think that's, Joe can describe the cost security agreement, I didn't really review it, but it's in there. The letter from Mr. Geeson references, he represents Marquee Construction LLC, but I think I talked to Mr. Geeson briefly today, and I think that's the same. I think it's two companies, obviously, but I think it's controlled by the same human, but you can ask him that. To clarify that, and I don't know which one actually owns the development property. Yeah, so anyway, it's all in there. I think he wanted time to speak. So Sonny had arranged this, but I think he had wanted time to speak, the attorney, Mr. Geeson.
Sure. If you'd like to speak, sir.
Thank you, council. My remarks very brief. Name is John Geeson. Represent Marquee Construction, who is the owner of the property as well as the builder. Dr. Holman is with me as well. As Mike pointed out, you have my comments, my legal arguments, pages 62 and 63. I'm not going to rehash those for you. I think the main disagreement, if you want to call it that so far, is, you know, what code is providing here or what code applies. You know, we were looking originally at 151.283, which says water main up to 12 inches may be required to meet normal distribution required in the development. And our big question was, how is this water main extension something that's required in this development as opposed to required in future development? Again, as our reading is, you know, take it for what the language says. The party who creates the need for the water main is the one that should be paying for it. We're not creating the need that there may be some future development, you know, hopefully very soon, but who knows how long in the future that's actually going to occur. So we are setting out that position. Page 37, I think you have Mr. Flaherty's response. He's pointing you to 151.275. As I read that, that's the process that would apply if you were going to be replatting this particular piece of property, which is referred to in a prior plat as Lot B. And I think where you eventually end up, you know, you've got these conflicting views of code provisions. Where I end up, I think, is where council is pointing you is that, you know, the city could allow, I'm quoting here at page 37, city could allow the developer to develop the outlot without replatting, but there's no obligation of the city to do so. If the city decides to allow the development to move forward without replatting, the city should demand a release of all legal claims. I'm not sure if this got in the packet or not. I did send a correspondence dated October 16th with a settlement offer. Again, our purpose here is not to be racing to the courthouse and suing the city. I understand the city, and, you know, we had a good conversation this afternoon. No one's in the interest of just, you know, litigating for the sake of litigation. You know, obviously the court is there for a purpose, but that's not our intent at this point. I think we're proposing a settlement that the city would agree to a 50-50 cost participation and not require replatting. And, you know, in exchange for that release that's being pointed out by Mr. Flaherty. You know, we put that in a letter. Happy to talk about that more. That the details of, you know, the best news that's come out, I think, since the last meeting was that there was a much more favorable bid that was secured, and I think that's good for developer, good for the city. So we're hopeful that we can reach a compromise here, meet in the middle somewhere. You know, hopefully facilitate this development and more development on Minnesota Avenue.
Well,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brent.
So I appreciate both of you gentlemen being here tonight with us. We're sorry it was so late getting to you. We appreciate the interest of the sharing with the city. And it's my understanding that having reached that point, it's just a matter of understanding exactly what costs are incurred and how do we come to agreement on what those shared costs are. And that's where Joe, I guess.
Right, so I did provide a little exhibit for the council, just as a background, something we can all look at and talk on the same. So on this exhibit, you can see The Glenn's Motor Coach parcel, you guys are familiar all with where that's at. It's actually just to the east of the Gas and Go. And the blue highlighted line is the existing 12-inch water main, kind of cuts through the Cedar Woodlands development on the north side of Gas and Go. And what is being required through my review of the site plans is that the developer would have to connect to that 12-inch water main and extend it along its frontage. And 12-inch water main is a trunk water main. It's the biggest water main that we have in town, and it needs to be extended through the commercial area to do a number of things. One is to provide water service to the Glenn's Motor Coach parcel, as well as fire protection. It's a long dead-end main. It's not a loop water main, and so it does need to be larger in size to provide fire protection. A typical water main is 8-inch diameter. In some areas, we go down to 6-inch diameter, nothing smaller than 6, but typically 8. That's kind of the standard. And we are requiring that water main be extended along the entire frontage. And that's that yellow highlighted line. So it gets down to Minnesota Avenue. Ultimately, that water main will extend farther to the south along Minnesota Avenue and serve additional properties. And so it's very common for cities to require property owners to extend water main through their facilities or through their developments, not only to serve their needs, but also to facilitate the next property owner's extension of that facility. Because this water main will go all the way to Minnesota Ave or Hunter Street and beyond. So what we would typically see or often see in this instance as a cost share, not a cost split, but a simple cost share, is that the city would participate in oversizing the main from 8-inch to 12-inch diameter. And I went through and prepared an estimate of that cost. My estimate is $17,225 to oversize that water main based on the average bid prices that we got from Fitzgerald on the construction project that's currently underway. And so that basically it's the difference in cost to upsize the water main from 8-inch to 12-inch. So it's a bigger pipe, there's bigger fittings, bigger valves, things like that. So that $17,225 is the cost share that would come from that based on those average bid unit prices for construction only. The city has done similar cost shares on the extension of trunk water main through Orinoco Crossings when that was built by People's Co-op. And then also as part of Cedar Woodlands 3, extending that 12-inch water main to the Cedar Woodlands site and to the point where you see it on this map, there was also a cost share for oversizing that water main. And so that is what I would recommend the city consider in this instance. It's consistent with what we've done in the past, although every situation is a little bit different. I do see this happen in other communities, and it, in my opinion, is fair and equitable. We did also work with the developer and Fitzgerald to
Up with the cost for construction, part of it.
ask them to quote the project, and I think that did reduce construction costs rather considerably from what we were talking about. So hopefully that was helpful.
Oh, it was amazing. So thank you for doing that.
Do we need a motion on that then for?
Anything else you wanted to say?
Well, I think I'd like to hear from the developer. I mean, you kind of heard what I'm proposing within the ballpark, I think, of what you guys are asking for. It's consistent with our policy. Would that be amenable to that?
Yes.
So, typically the city gets fees in. That's what the water availability fee really is, right? It pays for water supply and trunk water mains, oversizing mains. And so with every development, you get a WAC payment. And so we would essentially be using whatever WAC payment exists to essentially pay that to the developer as part of the issuance of their building permit. essentially offset those fees or make payment of those fees from that fund.
And so the other part of it was that when Joe had written his original staff report at the last month, that he had suggested that a solution could be to waive the water access charge. Do you recall this? Does everybody recall this? Because the council voted against that, but at that time, neither Joe nor I had the benefit of the actual signed development agreement. And if you look, it's in the packet, if you look, summary of it is that the city, long before any of you were here, when the city agreed to that development agreement, it agreed to basically a credit against future water access charges for a payment by the developer who signed that agreement, which is odd. And you should never do that again, but that's what you did. So that's where we're at. And so I think they have a good, I've reviewed that contract and I think they have a good contractual claim that they're not obligated to pay. And that includes both outlots. This is outlot B, it will also include outlot C. By our calculations, they had paid 37,000 or something like that, the original developer.
The original developer has a credit coming of $27,000 when outlot B and C are developed. It'll be deducted from future WAC charges, and so this is part of the,
Including this one, but the developer, when he says the developer has, so that agreement it was recorded against the real estate. So all these properties, they went to the county recorder and recorded it, and it has a language in there that the agreement should bind its successors and assigns. So the developer, assuming this property has been sold from the original developer, which I haven't done any title work to confirm any of that, but assuming that, then those rights of the developer to have that credit would have been assumed by the subsequent purchaser, who I assume, there might have been multiples. I mean, this might have been changed hands several times since then, I don't know, but assuming they own it now, it would apply to them, not the original developer, the way I read that contract. So that's no long way of saying that's not an option really to offset those. And it was approximately a $10,000 WAC charge.
And then I think what we're looking at also is the future of what we're gonna be doing for developing that other lot that there is coming further out, that we need to have water going that direction anyway.
right, we need to have water going.
Even though it's a
and-
dead end, I think
Right.
that we're gonna develop it and we need to have it, so.
Absolutely, yeah.
So do I need to make a motion for that?
I believe so. I
So-
think there's,
so the last
I
thing-
understand there's agreement of the proposal. so-
Yeah, so the last thing I'll say is the letter from Mr. Geeson talked about constructing the improvements, quote, in protest, unquote. And that they would construct what the city wanted them to construct, but they're not waiving any legal claims in the future. And so the proper way to get around that is for them to, in contract, waive those claims.
Yeah.
And we don't have such a contract today because I didn't know that you would agree to this or even that there was a resolution. So I'm suggesting that you just table this until the council can take it up again.
Okay, so you understand what we're trying to do then?
Yeah, I think another way I've done it was just say, look, this agreement will be subject to a settlement agreement and release subject to customary terms. It's a standard language, and if there's any disagreement, of course, you come back to you, but so that piece, like I said, we offered to have that release in exchange for a contribution. We suggested 50-50. I understand it's now 17. The other piece was if a replat was required, and I understand that would not be required. And I think that would be the terms of the motion.
Well, I don't know, it would be, I didn't get it, it would be a waiver as an attachment to what agreement?
You would be making the contribution, I can say the city should be making a contribution of $17,000. I condition that, number one, the cost share is $17,000. Number two, no replat required. Number three, entry of a settlement agreement, customary terms, including a settlement or a release of claims related to
So when does
water
that,
construction.
so pause there, when does that get signed?
I mean, a week, 2 weeks, when,
Right, but the council has to vote on it, they meet once a month, so that's what I'm getting at.
Motion pending.
Well, right, but I think they want to start the project.
Right.
But what I'm telling you is you shouldn't let them start the project till we sign that agreement because they've hired a lawyer to write this letter. And I'm not comfortable, they're making a lot more claims than just the increase in the pipe size.
Yeah,
It clearly needs to be documented, and I think it'd be good to have that documentation before we actually make the motion in our minutes. on a special meeting or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a motion to have the city attorney draft that release, settlement and release or release of claims agreement. And then do you have, the only other thought I had on it was, was there a budget workshop meeting all done? There's no special meeting scheduled.
We need to have one, but that's kind of up in the air now, but yeah,
Okay.
we need one.
So the bottom line is this, if you want that, we can't do it tonight because we don't have it, right?
Exactly.
So it'll have to happen at some subsequent meeting. That's,
So
Or, I mean,
Special meeting.
we can do a special meeting if that would help. Do you have time to do that or?
I haven't taken vacation in 6 months. I'm going on vacation on Thursday, so.
There's no way to do this on a contingent basis, Mike. The council approved the agreement contingent upon.
Well, once we give
your
them the
review.
once we give them the money.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that raises another issue. You don't have a city administrator anymore to sign it, and that's what your code says, probably.
City clerk, I think.
Maybe the city clerk. It probably says city clerk in your code, I would think. Well.
Yeah.
It's, that's up to the people signing the agreement, so. If you feel comfortable signing the agreement without them approving it and voting on it. You can go ahead and sign it and Renee can sign it, but that'll be a question for the two of you. If you're comfortable doing that without the council approving it.
What's your recommendation though? Obviously, you'd write the agreement, so.
Right.
It's Minnesota. Winter's coming.
Right, that was my concern, so that,
Okay, so before we make the motion, so how do you feel about that approach of? I think there's a gentleman's agreement, a consensus, that's the way approach we're gonna take, so I don't think we need a special meeting. if you-
No, I mean, I think that,
You sign it.
yeah, we're in agreement on that, yeah.
so I'll draft, so there'll be a motion to draft the settlement agreement consistent with what was discussed. And to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign whatever that agreement says, whenever we get it drafted.
And everybody's in agreement with that, so we can. Move ahead.
motion.
Yeah, I would formalize it in a motion.
Yeah. So
At least do that.
You are, it's there.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I think the big concern here is, there's winter is coming, there's a time frame
Yeah,
issue.
that's why we're
Can
trying
we
to
be
do.
proceeding? I think there is an agreement in principle.
Yes,
is what I would call
exactly.
it. We're gonna formalize it, and if anything were to come up, we can bring it back to council's attention, but are we frozen from doing anything?
No, we want to get you guys moving ahead too, which is what we want to try to do, so.
Like the question I asked for him, and I asked Joe before, is there any way I can at least get a shell permit? Cause my building's sitting there, so I can at least get going with building it to try and get it like going because of the weather.
Where are you guys at with review of the building plans for conformance with the architectural control guidelines?
That was when I talked to Jay, but I know Randy is the actual building official here. We adjusted all the stuff that was on the frontage road, so we changed that whole face, we added more windows and all that stuff is approved. The understanding I had is they're just waiting for the stuff with the city to be finalized, because
Okay.
then I could get my building permit. And the last email I had from Sunny was that they weren't gonna allow anything until the grading permit got approved, but that was back, and just so you guys know, with Joe's help. So I was under a contract with my developer or my excavation company. My bid for this was $122,000 ad. Thankfully, Joe reached out to your city contractor that is willing to do the work at your guys' cost, and that's how we ended up getting this number as small as it is now, is because Joe reached out to them. But with CMS, everything is ready. It's just you guys giving me the shell permit to at least start putting up the building while we work this out for the grading.
Well, I think your engineer is revising the site plans. I'm expecting them to be submitted tomorrow, maybe even. Or certainly this week, based on what he told me, and you're close. With the exception of this and the agreement that Mike needs to draft, so. within the next week, I fully expect that we'll have the documents, and if they did what I asked them to, we should be able to approve the site plan, which
So is there any way that I can get approval on the shell to start constructing it?
So the shell you're talking about is to mount to the footings that are there,
Basically, it's the metal building. Construct the metal building, it's sitting.
constructed on the footings that are there.
On the foundation.
So,
I, you know,
I mean, we're talking days here. I know you're concerned about days too, but, I think it'd be good to follow the process with the plan that we have in place. Just we have a plan of a documentation, me signing it whenever it comes this way. So we're moving that along. The site plan is coming in tomorrow. So I'd prefer if we just bear with us another midweek or something like that possibly. We
I
should
think
be,
that's prudent.
are we up to, or is there anything in the CMS organization that's going to delay this proposal midweek? Are we
I
expecting
don't-
anything back from them?
I don't know anything about the billing side of things. You're saying that they're ready
Yeah,
to
I mean,
approve it based,
I have 6, 7 projects going with Randy and Jay over there. So I talk to them almost every week, and we're just basically waiting on city's approval. And they said my building is ready to go.
so it might be a pretty short duration. And if that's truly the case, I'd, like the mayor is suggesting, I'd recommend that we follow the process and
Yeah. Like a lot of other projects, the historical data is important. And I think it's important to make sure we follow the plan that we have in place. I don't think there's any disagreement to the plan. It's just a matter of giving us 5 more days to document it, follow the process and not bypass that and having to come back around. So that's okay with you, gentlemen. We'd like to do that.
So just to be clear, I cannot draft that this week. So I will not start that till next week. I'm gonna be gone, leaving tomorrow morning. I've gotta go. What? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
I gotta go train some lawyers in the cities for a whole day tomorrow, and I'm going out of town, coming back Monday. I will not start drafting this till Tuesday.
For the shell part of it?
No, the release,
That-
he's suggesting we don't let them start early.
I'm holding until we get.
Until we get all the documentation, and I'm telling you, and he said 5 days, and I'm telling you, I will not start that for 6 days. So, and then we've got, so just so we're all clear, I just can't, I don't have time to do it, so
It could be
10 days or whatever,
8 to 10 days.
or 14 days, I mean, it could be whatever it is, so I just so that there's clear expectations that.
I could take the burden on myself. I could get this drafted. I mean, I'd be happy to do that. I think, release is something I draft my daily practice. I mean, I was imagine saying, Marquee Construction LLC releases all claims related to the utility extension. I mean, we could even put that on the record tonight. I don't know how much, you can go beyond that. Any claims arising out of or related to, and then, cities, staff and employees, and, you could have a broader release, but the release itself is gonna be pretty simple. I'd be happy to take a first whack at drafting that and getting that circulated. I don't imagine it needs to be a very complicated document, other than us, not only saying here tonight that, if this is the deal, we're not gonna sue you. Take that for what it's worth, but we'll put that in writing too, and I don't know much more complicated. It really needs to be other than that.
I want to read it, I guess. That's probably-
I'm with you, Kevin.
I'm out for your best interests.
And no, that's why I'm looking at you.
So we have agreement for him to make a draft,
Sure.
share it with you and Joe, or share Joe with Mike.
Yeah, I think, my client is obviously, winter's coming,
Sure.
time is of the essence, and that's where I'm coming from. I'm happy to keep the process moving.
We appreciate your time to do that, so.
Yeah, I appreciate your time as well.
And thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for waiting, I know, yeah.
Thank you, John. So the minutes reflected be just tabled until we get the agreement before myself to sign, and then we can proceed
Yeah.
with.
Well, it's not, I think you should take a vote that they authorize you to sign it, if that's what you wanna do. If that's what you want them to do, I think you
Yeah,
should vote that you are authorizing the mayor to
So
review.
make an amendment, I make amendment that the mayor can sign, our motion that the mayor
Yeah.
can sign that along with Renee.
And the clerk, and the mayor.
And there's a second, who's it?
I second.
Any other comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. Two sisters. Briefly.
Just real briefly, yeah, calculating the, plant investment, charge and the sewer availability charge for the Two Sisters Restaurant. We do that, we have kind of a policy that we set up for the assessments, right? And we do that on an equivalent residential unit basis. And so an equivalent residential unit, or typical residential home uses about 5,000 gallons of water per month, so that's what the assessment's based on. And so, that is what's charged to businesses that also develop. Well, in this instance, the developer is projecting that the restaurant will generate 131,400 gallons of wastewater a month. Which is equivalent to 26.28 equivalent residential units or 26 homes, right? And so if you take that 26.28 TRUs times the rates for PIF and
Commercial.
SAC, it equates to a pretty significant number of about $128,000. That's the sewer fee that would be charged. And that's all based on the developer's projected flows. Well, you know, frankly, I think the developer's projected flows are high.
Yeah, I'd say.
And so, but I don't want to tell him he's wrong because he might be right. Maybe he's right. So what I'm proposing is we base the initial fee on that, but we execute a develop within a clause of the development agreement, say, we'll monitor your first year flows and recalculate that fee after a year. And if we owe you money, then we'll pay you money. And if you owe us money, then you pay us money.
I mean, that.
So it's fair.
That makes sense. I think that's fair.
But I'm not proposing to change fees or change the policy at all. It's still based on equivalent residential units at the prices that we assign to everybody else.
Right, and that's what we do with them.
And that's what we do with everything. It's just the number is pretty high when that's because the water use is so high.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to have that quick discussion with you,
Mhm.
let you know that discussion's going on in the background and it probably is gonna come back here.
No, we don't need to make, it's just a discussion, so
Just,
is there a time period when you would 2 months after operation, water flow or?
They said a year.
I think we monitor it
Yeah.
for
A year.
like a year, yeah. 6 months or a year, I can't remember what I kind of said, so.
So the SAC, that's all part of the SAC, the WAC is waived because it's already been paid
But
earlier.
it doesn't have anything to do with the water availability fee,
Right,
just
but
the plant investment fee and the sewer availability fee.
Okay, so it is PIF and SAC together,
Yes,
because it's all based on ERU, so,
it is.
okay. That's an excellent response, and you shared that with Two Sisters in,
I did.
or with their Dan, Cynthia, I guess.
Yeah.
Can we bypass the discussion models and go down to action items for tonight?
That's fine with me.
Okay, we'll go down to first responders.
Well, just a second, don't get a do D. Again,
It's the discussion.
Yeah.
Well, then,
Yeah,
because they're doing some road project up there now, I don't know what's happening.
yeah, so maybe.
How many, are you three talking about D already before the meeting?
No, you just turned around and said you want to go to the action
Oh,
item,
okay, I just want to.
and he said something about
You just asked.
D, and I said, well, it's got your name on it, Jim, and so that's all I said. Okay, that was the only thing.
Yeah, cause this was a holdover from the last meeting or from the agenda items I'd given Sonny that it turned out to be
Well, he
late.
just called me up there this afternoon, Jen, because they buried the manhole under the gravel. So are they gonna blacktop the street up there or? You know,
No, the policy. You know, it's a wastewater project. The funding only allows us to reconstruct what was there. It was a gravel road, so we're reconstructing it as a gravel road, just like we're doing everywhere else. So. The manhole's buried for now.
okay,
They ultimately all get raised to the finished grade, but not right yet. So, you know, if you do wanna pay that, I understand that's an option, and it's still an option. But you really you can't use the state's money to do it. You know, if you wanna do it, you have to use money that's not tied to the project in any way, shape or form, because the money it's for sewer and water, right? And they look at that very closely and say, you aren't supposed to be improving, you know, culverts and reconstructing roadways that aren't being impacted by construction. You rebuild what was there, and that's what they'll let us do. And they're very prescribed in that. I can't underestimate or understate that. But if you want to do that, we still have the opportunity to do that. We'll be paving Ware Course next year. The contractors will be back. It'll have to be separate. But the option's still there. The area base that's being put in, you know, it's all still good. But
This
that's
distance
why.
line
No, it
where the
makes sense.
manhole is, doesn't go beyond the manhole. As far as the rock that he's putting in there.
No, we put what we disturbed in, got replaced.
Yeah.
The parts of the street that were disturbed, just like everywhere else.
And so really the takeaway is, it's because the state doesn't allow us to make improvements. And if we were to pave it, it would be an improvement from what it was and we.
Right.
But we can still do that. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, it's a city cost or a city and property owner cost. So, you know, you might consider, do you want to assess the benefiting property owners? Do you want to use general tax dollars to pay for it? That's a decision for the council. But once you do that, you know, it's a public easement. You could pave it if you wanted to.
And it
But
is
there,
a street.
you know, just like any other alley in town or street in town, you know, there are other mostly alleys that are gravel.
Yeah.
Moving on to the first responders. Action, there's a copy of a bylaws that the first responders is proposing. They're asking for approval tonight.
You have a page number on that where we
Yeah,
have,
it's on page 86. So, yeah, several questions, and maybe one's for Mike. This is the first time, it's my understanding, the first time first responders have put together some bylaws. And they're a standing committee. And there's nobody here to ask why they need bylaws.
Honestly, nobody asked me to look at it. Sunny didn't even bring it up. I have a meeting with her where we go over each thing that I'm supposed to know about, and I didn't review it, so I don't know.
Well, I would,
You see, your question is, can they even do bylaws?
well, is there somebody on here?
Oh, she's from the first responders.
Tony, I guess.
yeah,
Tony, can you hear us?
you can hear us, we can't hear
Is
you.
she on mute?
Oh.
By chance?
We can't hear you.
You right click, is she on mute? Click on her.
No.
So it's gonna depend on how you form the first responders, basically. If that's a product of ordinance or if it's a product of like a separate corporation. Some cities have them where they're not even part of the city, they're.
Yeah, there's several things in the bylaws. One, there's no signatures on it.
But then who's supposed to approve them? Is the city supposed to approve them? I've not looked at
I
them, so
don't
I don't know, but
He's trying. Can you call us?
Can you hear me now?
There you go, yeah.
So we've always had bylaws as long as I've been on the department. This is the first time that we've updated them. And so in the bylaws, it says in there that we're supposed to get the city council's approval when we update them. And so we were just kind of trying to follow that piece of it. But I mean, we have old versions of it, and this was just updated from the previous version.
what page is it on the packet?
86 through 91. So, thank you for answering that. I didn't realize you had it might be good to have see the old copy of it to see what's changed. Or if you
Okay.
can comment on what's changed.
Or maybe.
But more importantly, before you do that, in our time element that we have here, if everybody goes to page 91, under Article 7, compensation, it makes reference to being paid $15 per hour. And that's in your proposed budget. It's not approved. So, if you want to.
Right. So that was, I know Dan did some research into trying to figure out what other area departments are, how they're doing their compensation for their volunteer services. And we were far under what other groups were doing. And so we were kind of increasing to try to get closer to matching other departments. And so we realized that's not approved yet. That's part of, you know, the update of the bylaws and, you know, we proposed that in our budget and we proposed that in our bylaws, but, you know, yes, ultimately that's up to you guys as a council.
So there's a section in your code about fire department. Is this the fire department?
No.
Or is this different than the
First
fire?
responder.
This is first responder.
So I don't see that in the code. Is there
I think there is a piece in the code. The code is, you know, also not up to date. We were starting with bylaws, but
it's
Yeah.
in 3119. I was spelling responders.
Okay.
There you go.
Our budgets are approved at the December monthly council meeting. So that's when would be the appropriate time to put the dollar figure in here if there's an urgency for your bylaws be updated. I would put the current salary in there and then you could amend it.
there's no
wait
urgency. That we were just kind of preemptively trying to get everybody on the same page. I believe we officially approved things in the December meeting as well. So we were kind of letting you guys know that we were in the process of this as well.
Compensation is right in the code. It's actually a section of the code and it says per meeting, per run, $10. So I question whether that should be in the policy or be in the code. You know, why is the policy set the amount if the amount is set by the code? So those are questions. I don't know.
And I know we talked about that with the compensation for the officers, that was in the code. So perhaps maybe it doesn't belong in the bylaws. It's possible that maybe it's better off in the city code.
Yeah, it says it's section paragraph F1A, paren A. The members and officers of the responders shall receive compensation as follows. Then there's a chart that says $10 per meeting, $10 per run. All officers will receive the above plus assistant director, $300 per year, director, $500 a year, secretary, $200 a year. So I don't think, I mean, I haven't looked at this at all and it's late, but I think I need to take a deeper look, but I wouldn't set compensation in two separate places. I at least can tell you that. So table it, I would say.
Yeah, and what they were doing too with that is they're gonna have more with the township that's gonna be coming in and adding more revenue. Cause there's gonna be an increase off of that would help offset some of this stuff, so.
So Tanya, is that acceptable that we table this until I guess 1 January?
Yes.
Compensation, whatever it is, and if there's anything else that Mike comes across with his review of the bylaws.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the officers, so I would say for sure you can table it this month and I can talk again with the other officers.
So Tanya, this is the city attorney. Is that the amount they actually get paid, the $10?
Right now, yes, we get paid $10 per run and per meeting.
So you're following the code as it's currently drafted then?
Correct. That's what we're doing currently. These were proposed changes for next year. Or whenever they're approved.
Well, that's okay. We'll proceed with tabling it for further review and update on the salary later on.
And then Tanya, can you send directly to me or Renee, if you have a red line, like Ryland was asking, showing the changes?
The previous one, or current one, I should say.
Yeah, if there's a draft where it's marked up or whatever, that would be helpful.
Yep, I can do that.
Very good. Well, any other comments for the first responders? Thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you.
I think we have to do a motion, right? Because it's an action. Or
No, it's tabled.
Okay,
So we don't do anything.
so we don't have,
Technically be a motion to postpone, but
Okay.
I think you don't need to,
okay,
because it was not an action item, right? It didn't ask for a vote.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think you can just move on.
it said action.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for here.
Yeah.
I'm down in the
Under
document.
Yeah, G3.
Yeah, so you could make a motion or you could just not do anything.
I make a motion, we table item G3, first responders, new bylaws for further review by city attorney.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, if I sneak out, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
If I
Thank
can
you,
go
Joe.
with you.
Talk to you now.
Night.
Economic development, we have a proposed contract with CETA. Community and Economic Development Associates from Chatfield. We've had, our EDA's had several meetings, and one of our first recommendations to council is approval of a contract starting 1 November through December 31st of 2024. And the CETA would have a regular person here, will have a regular day of week here that is dedicated to the services for the authority. And I think, yeah, she added this CETA contract in your, so you have it, okay. So we think it's, there's funds budgeted for this year as well as for next year. We think it's a great step in the right direction, especially kicking this off. Some of the things we talked about at CETA meeting or our EDA meeting in September was what this contract would help us do. There's a couple projects that the CETA representative that was here, that will be here after the first week in November. I'm not sure what day of the week, but as far as community engagement planning, it's part of our process of working with the groups of individuals, identifying our community engagement process. It's a 3 to 6 month event, maybe 20 to 30 hours is the timeline. We'd form a steering committee, community engagement, also set up project marketing, community survey, community input, town hall meetings with our residents, potentially focus groups, and ultimately providing a results report at the end. So that would be part of some of the new assignments that this CETA representative would be involved with. The second part of it is a proposed economic development services, a customer support program or CSP. And that would be more importantly, that's what some of their functions. They will drive active projects, prospective inquiries, manage the community engagement process, organizational administration of the EDA or EDA, Review current plan projects for possible grant program funding. Introduction, development of relationships with key community stakeholders and landowners in the annex in their township. Begin development of long-term goals and objectives for future work plans. So there's a lot of very important and active things, and we think it's important to have the CETA person here one day every week. The next option was one day every other week, but because of what's ahead of us with our development, we thought the correct approach is to have the person here every week. So,
And, can I make a comment?
yeah.
Okay, I think this is really important, and I was really excited about getting CETA or EDA in last year when we looked at this. With what's going on with P and Z and what's happening with it, I think that this kind of goes hand in hand with what we're trying to do also with the community involvement and everything else that way. I think that one day a week will get us something moving. That if you had one day every other week, I don't think you'd have enough to be able to move ahead. So I think that this is the right way to go in the right direction to have that. So I agree with that. So you want me to make a motion to?
Yeah, if you want to make a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the CETA that we have in the packet for next year.
Second.
Any other comments? And yeah, I think that's no doubt the planning, we talked about that at your P and Z meeting, that could be an integral part of this as well. I think we're all looking for the same results
Right.
from our citizens, so. Any other comments? No, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
So Renee, is the office ready upstairs?
No, we'll have to look, well, they considered a table now.
Okay.
That's no problem, but there's good
And we'll
medical center down by the old Fleet Farm store. They got used furniture from the Mayo. That's where they get all their, so there's, you can get a nice desk, a 5-drawer file cabinet, $200,
Wow.
You can even
and
get
a
the
chair
binder.
for $30. So there's some,
We get some new chairs.
no, they're there, so, but so I think that'll work out very fine. So.
And I'm assuming we need to provide a workstation or a laptop or.
Well, I think they'll probably have their own.
They
Yeah.
have their own, but
Yeah.
I don't.
That's all.
Right now, we'll there's room upstairs where they could be at too, so.
So is it
It's
correct? They'll start on November 1, right? Or they'll do the install?
whatever day they decide and whatever that person's identified,
Okay.
who it's going to be, so.
The agreement will take place on November 1st.
Yeah, that's when the contract starts, so hopefully that first week in November. The first is a Thursday,
Mhm.
so it might be the week of the 6th or something like that. Okay, planning and zoning. Item 3 is an action item. There's a building permits information there on page 103. There's a invoice from Construction Management Services. So I make it, so Jim, go ahead.
I make a motion that we pay invoice number, where is the number? The invoice from Construction Management Services in the amount of $18,377.63.
Second.
Okay, yeah, this is for just 2 months, I think. It says it here someplace.
Yeah, let's see. 18-3.
Well, it's in the quarters 2 and 3, it's in our agenda.
Yeah.
RFP, that's been, you're still in process of doing that.
Right, we're having second meetings after that, so, follow-up meetings.
Item number 5 Public hearing to consider cannabis related moratorium for study to be held November 21st, regular meeting. Oh, that's that's nothing to discuss there, I guess.
Nope.
There's discussions on the cannabis, but we'll skip those. Skip the tobacco ordinance. Parks and trails. The next one is personnel committee.
We kind of gone through most of that stuff anyway.
Yeah, so Mayor, on the cannabis public use, it's fine to skip it, but we just can't move forward until we discuss it, so. But we could push it out till next month.
Yeah.
It's not-
That's the plan, November 21st.
Yeah.
And then on the moratorium, I just talked to, that's item 5. I asked Renee to make the correct public hearing notice so that you can have a public hearing notice. You know, you have to have a public hearing, we have to give notice, and so Sonny had planned on that for November 21st. So Renee is gonna do the notice so that we can properly hold that.
Got
public.
it. Item L is this review and approval of personal policy handbook updates.
So I can give you an overview on that one. I know we're,
Well, I would like to make a quick comment. What's in your page 117, 18, and 19? It's really kind of out of an order because what you're proposing is not applicable to anything that's approved. Our current policy is dated January 2021. And Sonny was working on updating the policy, the LMC template,
that's what I'm working on.
but that's not approved. We haven't seen it. And to take 2 pages or these sections out of it, to me, it's just it's to be determined later on.
Well, the only
So
thing,
no,
as a comment that I was gonna make is on page 118. Okay, where he had the administrative assistant, we had that as a part-time, and I thought when we had budgeted, we were looking at full-time employee that we had put in, and that was the only comment that I was making for that.
So we can discuss it, but I think to me, it's not appropriate right now because we have nothing to put it into. It's just out there in space.
Okay.
so just to comment on that. This was brought this way and we can push it off to next one, but this was brought this way because we all agreed that it would be brought. This is the new template from LMC. This is what I've been working on, and we agreed, and this is what was sent to Nico, and we agreed to take these pieces, because these were of discussion at 2 council meetings. We've agreed to pull these out, but then take the rest of them and work with Nico at Mike's firm
So,
to go through the rest
why
of
don't
it
we just
in this
wait?
template.
so Nico had a death in the family, so he's out for a bit.
Yeah,
I didn't know, I didn't even know that, I just got his out of office today, and so where are we at with that? Has he reviewed the template?
yeah, this is the template, and the email I got back from Nico, I think you were on it. He said he didn't see any issues with it. We know some of these times can change, because after the fact, I had gotten an email response from Kane in terms of these hours. And I know we talked about hours like 7 to 4:30 rather than, 7 to 5. So there was feedback after this. And we can certainly include that feedback, but I think that the main thing is it was reviewed by Nico for content. He didn't see an issue in terms of legality from what I understood.
I didn't see, I don't have his email, but
Okay.
I'll take your word for it if he reviewed it.
Yeah.
But whatever, is it in the packet?
Yeah, and the plan is to work with him.
Yeah, so it's not done then, right?
No,
No, it's just as part of it.
Yeah, it was just these that we all
Okay.
agreed to pull.
So when he does, I'll touch base with him about this when he gets back. I don't know when that'll be.
Yeah,
But whenever it is, I think he should attend the meeting when the final policy goes so that he can answer questions. I'm just not
Sure.
qualified to answer the questions about it. So that's my one comment.
Yeah. Like I said, just to be clear, this is LMC.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because whether it's the core hours or city hall hours, there was some good reasons why we have the hours today.
Mhm.
And you're aware of those
Mhm.
about back in May of 2021.
Mhm.
Originally, the hours were from where we were at, it was 9:30 to 9 a.m. to 3:30, Monday through Thursday, and 9 to 1. It was the middle of the day, and so the discussion that we had back in May of 2020, and Carl made the motion, was to go to these hours of 7 to 4, because that was helping the people in the mornings.
But I
7 to
think it
4 and
also-
7 to 11 on Friday.
I think it also works well with Renee too, with what she's got.
Oh, sure.
You know, and so, I mean, to be flexible so that.
Well, right now, with the way you're putting the hours, you're having me work 60 hours because I will now only be the only one in the office. So keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
And I think these were coverage hours
But there's one person right now.
right now, yes.
So now I'm stuck 60 hours.
No, we can't do
We
that.
can't do that.
That's what you're proposing.
Yeah, but you gotta understand, this was in there prior, okay? So we're not saying you have to work 60 hours.
No.
Yeah. That wouldn't.
Yeah, that-
Prior,
we
you're
couldn't
talking about
do
the
that
updates.
prior to this meeting.
I think it's, I mean,
Yeah.
staff, public staff. City staff is not. They don't like these proposals for hours to begin with that you have now,
No.
of 7 to 5.
Yeah, but I guess what I said in the beginning, there was no feedback until after this was put together. And the idea was there would be feedback and there was dates, and there was no feedback. What I'm saying is we can look at these and incorporate what Kane gave. And I think we have to sit down with Renee and get the feedback
Yeah.
that we originally requested.
Cause on here,
And I
it's
think-
40 hours for Renee.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you were working on these, but it was my impression that council was going to see the whole policy around city administrator come to us, and that's when we would discuss it, not
No.
piecemeal it with these changes like
No.
this.
That's.
That's the understanding. That's what she was operating on. But to do the whole count, not take 3 success sessions out of it and because it's right now, in my opinion, it's still on the city administrator's desk to come back with a whole complete survey. Until that happens, I don't see time spending in.
But to be clear, Rylan, it was decided in a council meeting that these were the ones to come back. Mike even said,
Okay.
bring
Well,
just these back, and then
I didn't-
once these are done, let's look at the entire book. But these were brought for reasons that we discussed tonight.
I agree with what Jim is saying, and I didn't direct you to do that, though, that I will attest that was the decision that was made.
Yes.
And I mean, for how much time, I think we started this in July, June. I mean, we could have had Nico draft the policy in 45 days and have the entire thing and have it done by now. And it's since July. So without an administrator, you might just want to have him do it, to be honest. It's gonna be way easier to do it that way.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it and have him review it and go back and forth, you can do it that way. And that was what was decided.
Yeah.
I have not heard anything from him. I looked through my emails about it, so.
Okay.
But I mean, you can do it. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
what Jim said was we would do these changes. They wanted to propose these changes to the committee. And then also redo the whole policy. And he thought those listed of 4 or 5 changes were so important, they had to be done immediately. And then the policy would then shortly thereafter follow.
Right.
Within a month or two. We've had now, it's been 4 months maybe, and we don't have anything. So
So-
and I'm not involved, so I don't know what Nico knows
Right,
or.
So from if I understand what you're saying, Jim, that these page 117 through 119 have been updated to something different.
No, these are the updates from what we have from the old policies. So they've been updated to include hours and basically actually even probably a little more generic. And they've been put in the new LMC template.
So we will
Because
have
that's
another
what
opportunity to
we're saying.
review these
Oh, yeah.
piece by piece.
You're asking, will you?
I would hope so.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
there's things in here that makes like the personnel, the city administrator reports to the personnel committee, chair and vice chair, which we don't have. But
What do you mean?
personnel committee, city administrator reports to the council. They shouldn't have to call the personnel committee and say, hey, I'm gonna be late today.
I don't
That's
agree with that.
Crazy stuff.
I don't, how do we hold a city administrator accountable for being here?
We haven't trust and confidence.
Okay,
That's how we've done it for the last umpteen years.
but I
So when do
don't
you
see
become the
that.
personnel committee determine? You gotta call in when you're gonna be late.
Is that what's in the
You
league
don't have any
model?
confidence in your
That's-
city staff?
That's what's in the league model. They have to, if they're gonna be late, they have to call the personnel committee.
Yeah, look at it. It's not that they call the personnel committee. Our structure is based on the org chart. It's the personnel committee is that
The dotted
layer.
line to city administrator.
It's that layer. So because I thought we all agreed, or we talked about. If the city administrator goes directly to the council on everything, then everything is going to the council. It's not just you, it's all of us.
But then, I mean, I guess the point I'm misunderstanding this, but. The way I understand the personnel committee is the personnel committee handles personnel matters.
Right.
So if Sunny has an issue regarding a zoning issue. She wouldn't take that to the personnel committee, that would go to the council.
It's just anything related to personnel. So let's say Sunny is gonna be gone. We're gonna be
What do you mean
late.
she is gone?
Rylan, we're talking previous. You're being critical. So let's say Sunny was gonna be gone. There was no path. Other than call staff. To say, hey, I'm gonna be late.
And she does that. She calls Renee, hey, I'll
Not
come
always.
in.
Not always.
So whatever the.
Well, she calls her to let her know when she's gonna be here, and that's just part of them working together. To me, personnel committee shouldn't care if she's coming in at 9:10 or 9:15. If she's working, she's informing Renee that she's gonna be late, and whatever the case may be, but and then say, just because you're calling in, results in a call, no call. I mean, if that's the language of LMC, that's one thing, but
It all goes back to accountability. I mean, every staff person has accountability. I mean, if Kane's gonna be
sure,
late,
so it
if Kane
sounds like we
doesn't,
got,
I'm talking, if Kane is gonna be late. And he wouldn't call in to say, hey, I'm gonna be late, or I'm not gonna show up. What would the repercussions be? Number
we trust
one,
Kane right now. He does it all the time.
I trust too, Rylan. I trust too. But
I don't,
show me one business that's gonna allow you to do that.
I think you need to have Nico look at the whole issue.
Yeah,
Please do.
I'm not going to, I think the council, this is how I understand this, the council has delegated to the personnel committee. To draft a new policy, which I'm certain they did that, the council adopted that, voted on it. This is I'm in the process now, so the process was the personnel committee at some point, whether it's before or after those 5 things, was gonna create a new policy. To recap, the reason we needed a new policy was the old policy didn't reference the city administrator because we didn't have a city administrator when the policy was adopted. So now we have an administrator, so we need a new personnel policy. Your city code references a personnel policy, but it just says must follow. It's just one sentence. It just references the policy. So I think, and then there's 2 different, and I said at a different meeting that there's 2 different models that we use at our firm. We have adopted our own firm model, which is more conservative than the LMC model. And then we use the LMC model, and different cities pick different. We help cities do the model policy. We help them do our Flaherty Hood policy. But it's been several months, so I think I guess I'm unclear as to when I talked to Nico about this. What the issue is getting the full final policy to him for review. Like, I'm not understanding. Why that hasn't happened, or if you need help with that, and I want to communicate that to him so that he can help you do that. If you need help.
because I understood that we were gonna have Nico help
Right.
with the.
The
After
final-
this,
the
the final, that Nico was going to help, and draft it, and we would all take a look at it, give our feedback.
And so we're not even at that point yet. You're just doing these 5 things
Yeah,
first. We're still at that level.
Then down the road.
We haven't
Yeah.
started doing the whole policy.
No,
Okay, all right. So
Nope.
then I'm good. I just,
yeah.
if you had already got the policy done and he hasn't seen it, he's
No,
not here.
no,
and
no,
I'm
no, 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 no.
Okay,
We're following process that was discussed.
okay, I'm good. I just.
So what's your,
I
Okay,
get
We're
confused.
working on it.
so the LMC template, has it gone any further than what the template shows today? You look at the template, it has all these different suggestions and bullets and everything. Have you gone beyond that?
No.
no,
And strike sections out of it?
no, because we have to overlay what we have in our policies.
Oh, I don't think you should do that.
No,
No.
because that's
No,
what
I wouldn't.
LMC
I hope not.
suggested.
Well, I think, I mean, the model policy has options in it, right? Like, I
Right,
mean,
right.
that is the policy. I mean, if. Yeah, I mean, if it's the model, I've seen lots of LMC model
Yeah.
policies over the years, so typically they draft it word for word and then. It'll have different choices you can make in language choices.
Mhm.
So I think what you're saying is you're taking the existing personnel policy. And then overlaying it, does that mean?
Well, and it's,
What does that
yeah,
mean?
it's not taking all of it. It's basically taking what's in the template, but there's some things that are specific to the city that you put in
Okay.
there. And
Sure.
from directing of LMC, they said not all of it is going to
So
fit.
here's the template. 2.02. Here's not the one you're talking about now.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think what
No,
you're
yeah,
saying, I think what you're saying is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we've got it, Ryland. So
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah,
What
I
you're
think
saying
that-
is, some cities have different types of employees by name, like some cities have this labeled employee.
Yeah.
If you don't have that labeled employee, you have to take it out of the model because it doesn't make sense, for example, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I get
what
it.
they said.
So,
city
yeah, I mean,
has-
and we're on the same page
Yeah,
here on
we are.
this, otherwise
We are.
we're just talking over.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're gonna move ahead.
What I see here for 2.02 in the template. And what you're proposing in yours is. A whole lot different. Disciplinary actions. No calling anybody. Okay, so that's what you're proposing.
Right. Right,
All right.
accountability.
Let's move on. One thing. What I'm looking for, I thought there was a line item. About. RFP. For. Approvals of building inspector. Services.
I didn't see that in there.
yeah, I saw it in there.
Yeah, where was
there's
that?
some-
It's in, CMS, it's in, J3 action, CMS invoices, quarters 2 and 3. I marked that and wondered if we voted on that.
Let's see.
We might have it in the. They did vote on it?
CMS, we did it, but,
We paid that invoice is what we were looking at for the 18,000.
RFP
Oh, yeah, it's.
Under- I guess under planning and zoning. So. I misread RFP,
Yeah.
item number 4.
Yeah, it's a.
So that's your RFP, but CMS is working on a a contract that ends the end of the year. So my conversation with Sonny, and I thought we had a separate line item here to get approval to go out and ask for RFP for new building management services. Building inspectors. CMS is coming up for renewal. So my thought was we should maybe put an RFP out to CMS and to Olmsted County Planning Department. They do the same type of building services for Byron and Stewartville.
Okay.
And they would also entertain an RFP from other cities, Orinoco, if we would like to have them quote, respond to a quote, I guess,
I think it'd be good.
for their building services. And I apologize, I thought that's if
Can I make a motion?
I could allow, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we go out with an RFP to go to Olmsted County and other services for building inspector for next year's contract
And CMS.
and CMS.
With the council's approval of adding that to the agenda, that's whatever form that looks like, but I think that's something we should consider doing to give Olmsted County and CMS the opportunity to respond. I think it's a good time to consider doing that too, so.
Well, CMS just changed ownership as well. I don't know if you knew
Right.
that, but they were bought by an engineering firm in Rochester just this year, so.
Right, yeah, that's when Roger and Casey Paul, our previous building inspectors, they were bought out by CMS, and so they gravitated to us, but that was just a contract at the end of the year, so we think as
Oh,
a
I see.
city, we need to look at
Yeah, I agree.
other alternatives.
I just wanted you to know, I don't know if you guys knew that, but they were.
Yeah, no, it's, Todd Weiner is the guy's name.
Wiener.
Weiner. Okay, with that motion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Who seconded that?
I did. Oh, no, I made the motion.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. Bill signatures. I think we're down to consent agenda.
What about 7?
Earl? Agenda motion,
Huh?
is that your motion?
No, I said, what about item 7? Unfinished business on that house. Mike and.
Oh, is it
Sonny
update?
was the one
Yeah.
that was dealing with it, I
Yeah.
don't know.
7A.
Huh?
So that's the hazardous building. I can give you the information I have on it. Sonny was doing most of the work on it, so. The building official, what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your building official is a guy named Randy Bolton. I don't know if you know that, but he works at CMS. So I had talked to Randy 3 weeks ago about this to try and get him to do an inspection, and part of that was. I wanted him to review all the photos and notices we had given in the past, so because they had done some work and I wanted him to know what it looked like before they had done work, so that he could form that as part of his opinion. So that took a week to download everything and get it to him. Then he took a week off. He finally did inspect it. He provided a report last week about his opinions based on the outside of the property. And I think he found enough for me to get a search warrant. Let me put it that way. Summarize it, it's late, but. So that's fine. And then I came in today. And Sonny asked me to come early to talk to Randy on the telephone about this, so we can meet and decide how to move forward. And so my understanding, and I mean, Sonny'd be the one to speak to it. I don't fully know, but my understanding is the property owners are meeting with her tomorrow. They had provided a quote from a construction firm to come and demolish the garage and demolish.
The L-shaped pack.
Yeah, you know about it. I didn't understand it, but
Yeah, they-
basically demolish portion of the house, rebuild portion of the house and clear up the junk outside. It was like $11,000, I believe. Maybe, you
Yeah,
know,
something like that, yeah.
yeah. So,
Is somebody from Stewartville is gonna come up and.
right, but I told them we can't trust that she's gonna do that. And, you know, cause that's just a quote. You don't know that she's gonna follow the quote. And so what I told, but she also previously denied entry into the home because Randy, we had a good discussion about that and we're all on the same page. He has to go inside the house before we can pursue anything. So we're still we got the first report, which was I sent an email with all the steps. I don't know if people got that.
Yep.
So we got that first report. We got to go in with a search warrant or by consent. And so I think we have a better, now that she's kind of agreeing to do this work. I think we were close to getting their consent, so we don't have to do the warrant thing. And so that's what she was gonna discuss with her tomorrow and her life partner, the woman and her life partner are gonna be here. So they're gonna discuss that and then hopefully get the consent to have Randy go in. I asked Randy, the only thing I asked him was she has to submit a demolition permit and a building permit if she's gonna hire this construction firm to do certain work. I'll just say certain work. I don't know what it is. And he did not view that was sufficient to do an inspection, like before signing off on the permit, which is what my thought was. So that's where we're at. One way or another, between now and the next meeting, we're going inside the house.
We should, cause there's skunks living in it now. The neighbor, you know, it's.
Oh, it's gotta be addressed. We're gonna address it. The question is, how do you address it? So.
Process.
And then we also have concerns if she demolishes just a portion of the house and rebuilds the siding, that the remainder will still be. And Randy, I asked him, well, can you determine that based on what you've already observed? And he said, there's no way. You'd have to go inside the house to do an inspection, like look at the joists and all that stuff. So I don't get it, but he's got to go inside the house, the bottom line. So that's what we're gonna do. But now somebody needs to meet with her tomorrow. But he's not able to do that. And I think
What time?
I can't do it. I gotta drive to St. Paul and train these lawyers how to be lawyers, so I don't know what to do about that. So
Either there or come here.
I have no clue. Do you know? Okay. She said she's meeting. Maybe it's over the phone. I don't know.
Their life partner, their son. Steve,
I said son, and then I said, I thought it was son-in-law, and she said, no, it's her partner. She said it's her partner. I think the son has like a medical issue or something, but I don't know. Don't quote me. I don't know. Sonny knew all this.
So he may be coming in tomorrow to get the demolition permit.
They already submitted the demolition permit application, I believe, right? I think they did. So, but they need a building permit too, but they were just gonna talk about.
Demolition part.
Because the concern is they don't want her to do all this work, spend a bunch of money. And then we tell her she has to tear it down anyway. Like, that's stupid. So we need to go in and give her that opinion, so.
So part of the quote is the demolition of the L shape, so it's a rectangle when it's left. Remove that and then board that up, that opening by that demolition that's being taken off the house. The quote includes framing it and covering it up with plywood or something like that. And demolition of the house or the garage. So-
And cleaning the yard up, I
And
understood.
cleaning the yard up, yes, all around the yard.
So that might be enough. It might not. I asked Randy, will that be enough? And he's like, I don't know. I gotta go inside the house. So he can't. So we need more info and we're trying to get her consent to do that. It's gonna be hard. So the last time I did one of these was in Eota. They don't have a police force either. City clerk there, they don't have an administrator. The city clerk physically had to drive to the judge's house to get the warrant signed because you don't have a police force and it was a real pain. So we can do that. I'd done it once last year or actually this year. But she's not around. So either Renee or somebody's gonna have to do that. And it's like, it's a time investment. So I think it would be, the reason I'm telling you that is I think it's worth meeting with her to try and explain this and say it's in your best interest to let us inspect it, which it is. So if somebody can do that, that would be good, or at least reschedule the meeting, maybe, something,
Well,
I don't know.
I'll work with Renee.
You know what time it was tomorrow?
But you may just. I have another meeting here at 11, but, whenever she comes in, call me. I'll come over. Okay, so that's progressing and we'll see what happens here. Should have something by next meeting for sure.
Perfect. Well, so if you want the warrant, FYI, that takes a couple of weeks because then I don't want to get too deep into it, but then you got to arrange to execute the warrant. You got to get the sheriff there to do civil standby. There's a series of steps that are involved in coordination. So as soon as you meet with her, if she's going to consent, let us
The inspection.
to the inspection, let me know immediately. And then,
That's the main thing.
and if she's not going to inspect, we got to get cracking on it to get it.
she'll have to let somebody in anyhow before she demolish it, right? They'll look for hazardous waste.
Why, that's what I asked Randy, do you need to go in for the building permit to inspect? Like I did work in my house, Rochester Community Services came and inspected my house. I got almost a brand new house. And so, but he said, no, that's not authorized by the building code in this circumstance, so apparently not, but I think you can ask Randy that directly if you want, that's what I thought, but he also said it is definitely in her best interest to have him inspect, because if they go and do $11,000 of work, they might waste their money. And,
I thought it was $1,500.
well, there's a number of things. There was itemized, she had a itemized thing. The total was like 11,000, 10,000, something.
Yeah.
So
I
that's where
remember
we're
the
at.
number. I was surprised how cheap it was, but that's,
Well, there was multiple different things.
yeah.
The demolition of the garage was 1,500. I'm almost certain of that, so.
Okay, consent agenda, I guess. Unless I'm missing something else.
We had the citizens nomination for outstanding citizen.
Yeah, the outstanding citizens, that's, it's posted on our website. I was hoping we get it posted on our Facebook page too, if it's not.
We need to renew the action item there under B2, which is for the 2024 liquor and tobacco.
That's all tied to, that's just an FYI discussion, we're just essence of time.
That's an action.
But no, that's a
Discussion.
the action was for the 2024
Yeah.
liquor and tobacco license
Yeah,
under 8B.
8B.
Yeah, 8B.
Yes, thank you. I make a motion, we approve. Liquor and tobacco license for Tilly's and Gas and Go.
Second.
Page 126. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ruth, same sign. Yeah, I think it on Facebook on the other day, citizens. The committee will come back at the November meeting with the candidates, and then it'll be awarded in December. Okay, now consent agenda. Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Approved. Before we adjourn. Mike, with Sunny's resolution or Sunny's resigning or option, do we need to have a motion to accept that, or?
She didn't resign, you fired her.
She was given the option.
Yeah,
She was given the option.
She didn't say anything.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I know the way the motion was worded,
Yeah, it was worded as either or,
either or,
and then they just voted to approve it, so
she didn't resign, okay.
she didn't say anything.
We need a motion to accept that or not?
No.
Okay. Anything else that's touch base on here? All in favor of the consent agenda, that's been approved, I make the motion, meeting adjourned.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
39:45.
Hey, Ryland. This came from Pine Island from EDA.